Welcome to Chapter 1 of Mental Detox, a simple 7-day guide to clearing mental clutter. In this chapter, we'll explore Chapter 1, Understanding Mental Clutter. What you're facing when your mind feels full. Mental clutter shows up as a jumble of thoughts that refuse to settle. It's the list of errands that runs on repeat, the half-finished worries about a conversation, the random facts you learned this morning that keep popping up, and the tasks you can't quite decide how to handle. When too many of these items are active at once, clarity slips away. You find yourself drifting between things without fully finishing any of them. The aim of this chapter is to make mental clutter feel less mysterious and more manageable. You'll learn what mental clutter is, why your mind begins to feel crowded, and which everyday patterns most often create overwhelm. What mental clutter is. Mental clutter isn't a single problem you can fix with a one-time action. It's a layered condition made of scattered thoughts, unfinished tasks, lingering worries, and incoming information. Think of it as an inbox that never gets fully processed. Each thought, like an unread email, demands some level of attention even if you don't act on it. The more items sit in that inbox, the harder it becomes to find what's truly important. That list of items isn't only practical tasks. It includes random reminders, buy milk, unresolved social tension, what did they mean by that comment, open decisions, should I accept that offer, and even stray facts or ideas. All of these occupy space in your head. They may not be intense all the time, but their presence lowers your mental bandwidth. You have to fight through low-grade noise to get to clear thought. Mental clutter also has a quality to it. Some thoughts feel sharp, an urgent deadline, an overdue bill. Others feel foggy, a vague sense that something's off or a small worry that won't name itself. It's often the foggy items that cause the most trouble because you can't file them away or act on them. They linger and create a background hum of unease that drains energy without offering a clear next step. Why your mind feels full. Your mind feels full because each active thought takes a tiny bit of energy. Alone, that bit is negligible. Together, they add up. Imagine carrying a stack of books. One book is light. Carrying 20 books for a while starts to wear on you, even if none of the books is heavy on its own. The same is true of thoughts. There are 3 main reasons your mind reaches that tipping point. First, you collect more items than you process. Every time you learn something new, make a decision, or notice a problem, that item joins your mental list. If you never make time to handle, store, or release that item, it simply accumulates. Second, the items often stay partially unresolved. A task without a clear next step, an awkward conversation without closure, or an emotion you haven't labeled will keep generating repeat cycles of attention. Third, interruptions prevent deeper focus. When your attention is chipped away throughout the day, fewer thoughts get complete attention, which leaves more partial threads active at once. Biology contributes as well. Stress hormones make your mind more reactive and less able to hold many things calmly. Lack of sleep shrinks your working memory capacity. Diet, exercise, and social connection also influence how easily you can sort and file information. While biology does not determine your mental life, it changes the thresholds for how much you can comfortably hold at once. Patterns that create overwhelm. Some habits are especially prone to creating mental clutter. Recognizing them is the first step toward change. Multitasking is a big one. Switching attention between tasks carries a hidden cost. Each switch requires time to reorient and leaves a loose end behind. Over a day, those loose ends accumulate and compete with each other for attention. Constant decision-making is another. Every choice, even a small one like what to eat, uses decision energy. When you don't simplify decisions or automate routine choices, your mental budget runs down faster. That leaves less capacity for high-value thinking and increases the chance that small worries will balloon into larger feelings of overwhelm. Information overload is common today. We live with streams of news, social posts, emails, and messages that all demand some level of monitoring. Consumption without curation floods your mind with things you didn't choose to prioritize. That makes it harder to notice what you actually need to focus on in the moment. Perfectionism and over-preparation also create clutter. Wanting to get something done perfectly often means you leave it in an unfinished state while you imagine improvements. The result is a repeated loop of planning and tweaking that keeps the thought active longer than necessary. Emotional avoidance plays a part too. When we ignore or push away uncomfortable emotions, those emotions don't disappear. Instead, they show up as background tension, draining energy and making other thoughts harder to manage. Small signs to watch for. Before the pile becomes obvious, small signs can tell you mental clutter is growing. These include difficulty starting tasks because your mind is bouncing between things, finding it hard to finish sentences or keep a train of thought, feeling tired without doing much physical work, irritability around small things that normally would not bother you. Noticing these early makes it easier to stop buildup before it becomes heavy. The strategies in the following chapters are most effective when you use them at the first sign of clutter, rather than waiting until everything feels overwhelming. Simple experiments you can try today. Try 2 short experiments to better sense the current level of clutter in your mind. First, set a timer for 2 minutes and write down every task, worry, or idea that comes to mind. Don't judge or organize the list, just capture. How long is the list? How many items are unresolved? That gives you a baseline. Second, pick one item from that list and take one small step toward resolving it. That step should feel tiny and doable. If the item is call the bank, the step could be finding the bank's number. If the item is work on my report, the step could be opening the document and writing one sentence. Notice how it feels to move just one item off the active list. Where we go from here, this chapter framed what mental clutter looks like and why it builds up. The rest of the book gives you short, practical habits you can use to clear space in your head and keep it from filling up again. You don't need complicated systems. You need consistent, small practices that fit your life. In the next chapter, we'll look at where overload comes from so you can start targeting the specific sources that matter most to you. 1.1. What mental clutter is. Mental clutter is the pile of thoughts that stay active even when you try to relax. This short section explains what those thoughts are and why they feel like noise. Definition: mental clutter is the everyday mix of scattered thoughts, unfinished tasks, small worries, and random information that keeps popping into your head. It's not one major problem you fix once. It's a collection of tiny items that compete for attention. Think of it like a crowded inbox. Each item, no matter how small, demands a bit of mental energy. Some items are reminders that you can act on, others are questions without answers, and some are fleeting ideas that keep returning. Because they all sit together, they make it harder to notice what matters. The key point is this: mental clutter wears down your focus gradually. The more items that remain unresolved, the more your mind must juggle. The good news is that recognizing the clutter as many small items makes the problem solvable by simple steps: capturing, sorting, and letting go, rather than huge overhauls. If you start by noticing the repeated items and treating them as single, manageable entries, the sense of surprise and overwhelm decreases. Small daily habits are enough to keep that inbox manageable. Everyday items that fill your mind. Everyday mental clutter shows up as a mix of simple reminders, open decisions, social hang-ups, and stray ideas. A grocery note, buy milk. A question about whether to accept an offer, an awkward interaction you replay, or a sudden idea for a project. These are all small items that return when you least expect them. Each item has its own pull. Practical reminders demand action. Open decisions create tension because they lack a clear next step. Social hang-ups loop because you search for meaning. Stray ideas feel exciting but unfinished. Individually, they're manageable, but together they form a noisy background that steals attention. What makes these items sticky is ambiguity. When you can't decide one next step, the thought stays active and keeps resurfacing. The simplest way to reduce their weight is to capture them, write them down, and then assign a brief status. Do now, schedule, delegate, or let go. Treating each item as a single small task reduces repetition and frees attention for deeper focus or genuine rest. Sharp versus fuzzy thoughts. Some thoughts feel sharp, clear and urgent, like a deadline approaching, a bill due, or a medical appointment. These items usually trigger action because they have a defined consequence or a visible next step. You notice them quickly and often respond. Fuzzy thoughts are different. They're vague feelings of unease, unformed worries, or questions without answers. Because they lack clarity, you can't easily decide what to do with them. That makes them linger, occupying mental space without producing progress. To handle fuzzy items, start by giving them a label. Writing, "feeling unsure about the meeting," is already more useful than a nameless anxiety. Then pick one tiny step. Ask one question, set a short timer to think, or jot down possible outcomes. The goal isn't to solve everything at once, but to reduce the thought's ability to loop. Sharp thoughts often respond to direct action. Fuzzy ones respond to naming and small experiments. Using both approaches reduces the background hum and helps you stay present. Why these thoughts feel heavy, even low-level thoughts consume tiny bits of attention. Each one calls for some monitoring, either to remember, plan, or worry. Individually, the demand is small, but when many are active, the total cost becomes noticeable. Your brain's working memory has limited slots. Clutter fills them and leaves less room for new or deep thinking. This shortage shows up as trouble starting tasks, losing your train of thought, or feeling mentally tired despite little physical activity. It also eats into relaxation. When you try to rest, those background items keep nudging your attention, so rest feels shallow and less restorative. Biology amplifies these effects. Stress hormones sharpen threat responses and make small worries loom larger. Poor sleep, low energy, or inadequate movement shrink cognitive capacity, lowering the threshold for overload. The interplay of physical and mental factors explains why the same day can feel heavier at times. To lighten the load, use quick habits. Capture loose thoughts, pick tiny next steps, protect short focus blocks, and create simple routines that reduce repeated decisions. Over time, those small moves add up to meaningful relief. 1.2. Why your mind feels full. Your mind feels full when small bits of attention accumulate faster than you can resolve them. This section breaks down the main reasons that happens. Every thought uses a bit of energy. Think of thoughts as small weights you carry in a backpack. One or two are easy to manage, but as the number grows, the load becomes noticeable. Each thought, whether it's a reminder, a worry, or an idea, takes a tiny amount of attention and processing power. That steady drain lowers your patience and focus. You may not feel overwhelmed by any single thought, yet the cumulative effect reduces your ability to concentrate on the task at hand. This is why you can feel tired even after a light day of activity. Your mind has been working behind the scenes. A practical way to spot this is to pause and notice mental friction, moments when your mind hops from one thing to another. Capturing a few items on paper or using a quick voice note immediately lifts several small weights off your mind, giving you back a surprising amount of clarity. Collecting more than you process, new items enter your mental list constantly: ideas, errands, worries, and decisions. If you don't create a habit of processing those items, deciding, storing, or releasing them, they simply stack up. Over time, what began as manageable notes becomes a crowded inbox in your head. This happens especially when days are busy and there's no clear routine for reviewing what's accumulated. Without a habitual check-in, items remain active and demand periodic attention, which fragments your focus. Set aside a short capture habit, a morning or evening scan, where you move loose thoughts into a list or designated place. Even brief processing, marking something for later, delegating it, or deciding to drop it, keeps the inflow from turning into a pile that steals your mental energy. Partially resolved items keep repeating. Thoughts that lack a next step tend to loop. An unfinished conversation, an unclear task, or an emotion you can't name will keep resurfacing because your brain is trying to find closure. That repeated attention feels like background noise and saps motivation. These partially resolved items are often foggy. You can sense they exist but can't pin down what to do. The mind returns to them because it prefers resolution. Without a clear action, they remain active, interrupting focus at unpredictable times. A simple fix is to create tiny, concrete next steps. If you can't complete a task, define a single specific action. Open the file, send a short message, or write one sentence. If it's an emotion, name it and note what triggered it. Small clarifying moves reduce repetition and free up mental space. Interruptions in biology lower capacity. Frequent interruptions break deep focus and leave tasks half done, which creates more active threads in your mind. Each time you switch, part of the previous task stays open and competes for attention later. Over a day, those interruptions magnify clutter. Biology also matters. Stress hormones make thoughts feel sharper and more urgent. Poor sleep shrinks working memory. Low energy reduces patience for sorting through mental items. These factors don't create thoughts, but they lower the threshold for how many thoughts you can comfortably hold. Address both sides. Reduce predictable interruptions by batching notifications or setting short focus windows, and support your capacity with basic health habits, sleep, short movement breaks, and hydration. Small environmental and biological tweaks give you more room to process and keep clutter from building too quickly. 1.3 Patterns that create overwhelm. Certain habits repeatedly lead to clutter. Spotting these patterns makes it easier to change them without overhauling your whole life. Multitasking leaves loose ends. Switching between tasks feels efficient, but each switch carries a hidden cost. Your brain needs a moment to reorient, which means small mental threads, unfinished steps, tiny questions, or partial plans get left behind and keep running in the background. Those loose ends accumulate as low-grade noise. You might think you can handle many things at once, yet the constant context switching reduces quality and raises stress. Tasks take longer overall, and your attention becomes fragmented. A practical response is to limit switches, group similar activities, set short focus windows, and allow simple rituals for starting and ending a task. Even small boundaries, 5 to 20 minutes of uninterrupted work, can prevent loose ends from multiplying and help your mind settle into clearer thinking. Over time, practicing focused blocks improves momentum and gives you clearer completion signals. You'll notice fewer nagging reminders, better concentration, and a calmer sense of progress. All because fewer loose threads are left unattended. Decision fatigue eats attention. Every choice matters because making decisions consumes mental energy. Small choices, what to eat, which email to answer first, what to wear, add up and lower the bandwidth available for important thinking. That gradual drain is called decision fatigue. When your decision budget is low, you become more prone to procrastination, avoidant habits, or snap judgments. Minor worries swell and feel more urgent because your capacity to evaluate them has been diminished. Simple fixes help. Reduce routine decisions by creating defaults, predictable meal plans, a pared-down wardrobe, or set times for specific tasks. Batch similar decisions together and schedule high-stakes choices for when your energy is highest. These small changes protect your attention. By reserving mental energy for meaningful decisions, you decrease the tendency for small concerns to expand and clutter your mind. Over days and weeks, this adds up to clearer priorities and less background noise. Uncurated information floods you. We live with endless streams of content: news updates, social feeds, emails, and messages. Without boundaries, all that input pushes into your awareness, whether it's meaningful or not, leaving your mind stuffed with things you didn't choose to prioritize. Information that isn't processed becomes background clutter. It shows up as random facts, half-formed opinions, or lingering comparisons that distract from what you actually need to do. The effect is a noisy mental environment where spotting important items takes extra effort. To reduce the flood, create simple filters. Unfollow sources that drain you. Set specific times for checking updates, and use folders or labels for emails so only priority messages demand immediate attention. Curating input is not censorship. It's choosing what you allow into your cognitive space. Over time, these small rules free up attention. You'll find decisions feel easier, your mood steadier, and there's more room for original thinking because your mind isn't constantly reacting to external stimuli. Perfectionism and avoiding feelings keep things open. Perfectionism often looks like extra care, but it also keeps projects in a perpetual not done state. When you focus on making things flawless, you delay closure and keep thoughts active as you imagine improvements that may never arrive. Similarly, avoiding uncomfortable emotions doesn't resolve them. Unprocessed feelings linger as vague tension or repeated mental scenes that compete for attention. Both habits, tweaking endlessly and sidestepping feelings, prevent clean mental filing. The antidote is permission to finish and to feel. Set time limits for revisions, publish or close a task when it meets a good enough threshold, and allow short, honest check-ins with your emotions. Label the feeling, notice where it shows up in your body, and decide on a small next step. Those small acts of completion and emotional naming release background pressure. You don't need to eliminate standards or avoid feelings entirely. You only need ways to move forward, so thoughts stop looping and your mind can rest. Thank you for listening to Chapter 1. We'll see you in Chapter 2. Welcome to Chapter 2 of Mental Detox, a simple 7-day guide to clearing mental clutter. In this chapter, we'll explore Chapter 2, the 3 sources of overload, where the noise comes from and how each source behaves. When your head feels crowded, it helps to know what's filling it. Most mental clutter comes from 3 sources: internal noise, external inputs, and emotional backlog. Each one behaves differently and therefore needs different strategies. This chapter walks through all 3 so you can spot which is most active for you. Once you can name the source, you can pick focused steps to reduce it. Internal noise. Internal noise is the chatter that happens inside your own mind. It includes self-criticism, replaying conversations, making assumptions about other people's motives, and looping through what-if scenarios. These thoughts often feel automatic, as if they are happening to you rather than being created by you. That makes them especially sticky. Internal noise drains energy because it often centers on imagined problems rather than real, solvable tasks. Worry about a future event, for example, can loop for hours without producing any new information. Rumination about past mistakes uses a lot of mental bandwidth while delivering little benefit beyond emotional discomfort. Notice how internal noise tends to be repetitive. The same few thoughts return in slightly different forms. They also seek meaning. A single ambiguous comment might spawn a dozen interpretations in your head, each one adding to the pile. Recognizing this pattern helps you interrupt it. If you can say, "That's my mind replaying and guessing," you can treat the thought differently. External inputs. The modern world is full of ways things can get into your head. Notifications, emails, conversations, news items, and background noise all count as external inputs. Their main effect is to pull your attention outward quickly and frequently, which fragments your focus. External inputs are often designed to be attention-grabbing. A notification pings so you click. A headline is written to create curiosity or alarm. Over time, responding to these inputs trains your brain to expect frequent interruptions. That lower-level alertness reduces the space you have for deeper thinking because so much of your attention is on scanning for the next signal. Not all external input is bad. Conversations, helpful feedback, and timely information matter. The goal is not to shut the world out, but to reduce the amount of unchosen input. Curation matters. Choose which channels are worth close attention and which you can check on a schedule. Emotional backlog. Emotional backlog comes from feelings that have not been processed. This includes unresolved conflicts, grief, disappointment, lingering anxiety, or any strong emotion you perceive as unfinished. These feelings use cognitive and physical energy. They take up space in your mind because they're trying to be acknowledged and resolved. When emotions are ignored, they don't vanish. Instead, they leak into other parts of your life. A small unresolved tension from last week can make you snap at someone today. Someone who feels low-grade sadness may find their concentration limited without understanding why. Emotional backlog often sits behind internal noise and can make looping thoughts feel more urgent or meaningful than they actually are. Processing emotions doesn't always mean long therapy sessions. Sometimes naming a feeling, talking briefly with a friend, journaling about what happened, or giving yourself permission to feel will clear a lot of the pressure. The key is to give the feeling some attention rather than pretending it's not there. How the 3 sources interact. The 3 sources rarely act alone. For example, a single upsetting conversation with a colleague, an external input, can feed internal noise as you replay it, which then triggers emotional backlog that keeps you keyed up for hours. Similarly, a constant stream of notifications, external input, can raise stress levels, making internal criticism louder and leaving less energy to process feelings when they arise. Understanding how they interact helps you choose the first thing to change. If external input is the biggest problem, you'll get the most benefit from cutting down interruptions. If internal noise is loud, techniques that interrupt thought patterns and create new habits will help. If emotional backlog is the issue, give time and space to process those feelings. Quick ways to test where your biggest source is. Try a short self-check. Sit quietly for 3 minutes and notice your thoughts. Are they mostly replaying conversations and worries? That points to internal noise. Review your day. How many times did you stop what you were doing because of a notification or new input? Frequent interruptions suggest external input is dominant. Scan your emotional state. Do you feel a lingering sadness, anger, or tension that doesn't resolve during the day? That suggests emotional backlog. Most people will find a mix. The point is to pick the primary driver in your life right now. Small changes targeted to that driver will give the fastest payoff. Practical shifts for each source. For internal noise, techniques that externalize thoughts work well. Writing, brief voice notes, or a short checklist. Labeling a thought as worry or planning reduces its automatic pull. For external inputs, practical steps include turning off non-essential notifications, batching email and message time, and creating device-free windows during the day. Set expectations with others about when you are available, so interruptions become less frequent. For emotional backlog, try naming the feeling in a sentence, talking it through with a trusted person, or writing 2 to 3 paragraphs about what happened and how it affected you. That kind of focused processing helps the emotion move on, so it no longer occupies background space. Moving forward, knowing where your overload comes from gives you power to act. The next chapters will give simple habits you can use to build a personal clarity system. You'll learn how to capture thoughts, sort them, reduce daily noise, and create boundaries that keep your mental space open. Small, consistent shifts are all you need to clear enough room to think and feel better in daily life. 2.1. Internal noise. Internal noise is the repeating self-talk that fills your head. Recognize repeating patterns. Repeating thought patterns are the loops that show up again and again, often in the same situations. They can take the form of replaying conversations, rehearsing mistakes, or anticipating negative outcomes. Pay attention to triggers, a time of day, a person, or a task that reliably brings the same thought. When you notice the loop, pause and describe it briefly to yourself. What thought came, when, and what emotion accompanied it. This quick note-taking trains your awareness. Over time, logging these repeats reveals patterns you wouldn't see otherwise. You might realize certain topics always spiral, or that stress makes some loops louder. A simple weekly review of your notes helps you spot recurring themes. Use one column for the thought and another for the trigger and outcome. Even one insight, like recognizing that social media scrolling often starts a loop, gives you a clear target for change. That awareness alone reduces their power. Notice automatic judgments and assumptions that feel like facts. Automatic judgments and assumptions behave like facts in your mind, even when they're unverified. Thoughts such as, they meant to criticize me, or I'm not good enough, often arrive as confident statements, but they're usually quick interpretations, not objective truths. The first step is to catch the tone. Does the thought use absolute language, always, never, must, or does it jump to motive reading? When you hear that inner voice declaring something certain, ask yourself, what evidence do I actually have? Challenging the assumption doesn't need to be confrontational. It can be curious. Write down one strong assumption and list 2 reasons it might be wrong. This simple exercise creates mental distance. Over time, you'll notice fewer rigid reactions and more flexibility. Recognizing judgments as opinions rather than facts is a subtle shift, but it frees cognitive space and lowers reactivity in everyday moments. Remember, it drains energy without solving problems. One of the frustrating realities of internal noise is that it consumes energy but rarely solves anything. Worry and rumination feel productive because they involve thinking, yet most looping thoughts recycle the same scenarios without producing solutions. Notice the physical signs: tension in your shoulders, shallow breathing, or a tiredness that shows up even after rest. Those are clues your mind has been running on empty. The mental cost matters because energy spent on repetitive thinking is energy unavailable for focus, creativity, or calm problem solving. Instead of staying in the loop, treat repetitive thoughts like a leaky pipe. They need attention, but not endless management. Short interventions, labeling the thought, setting a 5-minute worry window, or jotting down possible actions, preserve your energy. The aim is not to eliminate thinking, but to redirect it toward actions that help. Interrupt it by labeling the thought or writing it down. Interrupting internal noise often starts with a small, simple action. Name it or put it on paper. Labeling a thought, that's worry, planning, or self-criticism, creates distance and reminds your brain this is mental activity, not an objective command. If a label isn't enough, try a quick writing exercise. Spend 1 to 3 minutes writing the exact thought, then add a line about what you would do next if action is required. The act of externalizing reduces repetition because you no longer need to hold the loop in your head. When possible, pair this with a short physical reset. Stand up, stretch, or take 3 deep breaths. These combined moves interrupt the pattern on both cognitive and bodily levels. They are lightweight, easy to repeat, and effective. Over time, the habit of labeling or jotting thoughts down becomes an automatic brake that stops loops before they escalate. 2.2 External inputs. External inputs are alerts, conversations, and media that pull you. Many inputs are designed to grab attention and fragment focus. Most modern inputs, notifications, headlines, and bright app icons, are intentionally designed to grab attention. Companies use visual contrast, sounds, and emotionally charged language so you stop and look. That design works. These cues break your focus and shift your brain into a short-loop attention mode. When attention is constantly broken, larger tasks suffer. Fragmented focus means you need extra time to reorient yourself after each interruption, and ideas that require deeper thinking never get a fair chance. Over time, this creates a steady hum of background tasks and half-finished thinking that feels like mental clutter. Recognizing this design intent helps you become less reactive. If you know something is engineered to pull you in, you can choose how much power it gets. Simple choices, dimming alerts, changing the order of apps, or reading headlines only on purpose, reduce the number of times your attention is hijacked and make it easier to hold a clear train of thought. Responding instantly trains your brain to expect constant interruptions. Each time you respond immediately to a ping, your brain registers a small reward. The message is dealt with, and social or work needs are temporarily satisfied. That reward reinforces the habit, making your attention hyper-alert for the next signal. Over time, your nervous system begins to expect interruptions constantly rather than settling into longer, uninterrupted focus. This expectation reduces tolerance for sustained tasks. You might notice impatience, anxious scanning for new alerts, or difficulty entering deep work. The cost is not only lost time but also lower quality thinking, since creativity and complex problem-solving need continuous stretches of attention. Breaking the cycle starts with small experiments. Try delaying a reply for 10 minutes, batching responses, or setting an out-of-office window for messages. Tell close contacts about your boundaries so they don't assume instant availability. These small steps teach your brain that waiting is safe, slowly shifting the habit from reflexive reactivity to deliberate choice. Curate what you let in. Choose channels that matter. You don't have to accept every channel that asks for your attention. Curating inputs means deciding which sources add value and which ones simply create noise. Start by listing where information comes from: social media, work chat, news sites, family updates, and subscriptions. For each, ask whether it supports your priorities or mainly pulls you away from them. Prioritizing channels doesn't require full elimination. Keep a few trusted sources and reduce the rest. For example, follow only a handful of news outlets you trust. Turn off push updates for apps that add drama, and leave community groups that offer little value. Consider replacing scrolling habits with scheduled checks so you get information on your terms. Over time, a curated input set reduces reactive decisions and creates calmer mental space. It also helps you notice when something new tries to demand attention, giving you the power to accept it intentionally or let it pass. Practical steps: turn off non-essential alerts and batch checks. Practical countermeasures are simple to start and effective quickly. First, audit your alerts. Go through your phone and computer settings and turn off sounds or banners for non-essential apps. Keep only the notifications that directly affect your daily priorities, such as calendar reminders or urgent work messages. Next, batch your checking. Designate 2 or 3 times a day for email, messages, and social media. During those windows, focus solely on processing incoming items, reply, archive, or delete, then return to your main task. Batching reduces context switching and preserves deeper attention. Finally, create small rituals around availability. Use a status message, an auto-reply, or a visible signal that you are in focus mode. Let colleagues and friends know when you will respond. These behaviors lower the pressure to react immediately and make your attention predictable to others. With consistent practice, the noise from external inputs becomes far less disruptive. 2.3 Emotional backlog. Emotional backlog are lingering feelings that quietly take up space. Unprocessed emotions use cognitive energy and limit clarity. Unprocessed emotions quietly consume mental resources, leaving less bandwidth for thinking and decision-making. When feelings are unresolved, your brain keeps running through scenarios, rehearsing responses, or avoiding reminders, which uses working memory and attention. This cognitive drain shows up as decreased clarity. Tasks feel harder, choices seem fuzzy, and simple problem-solving takes longer. You might notice more mental fog, forgetfulness, or difficulty following conversations even when you're well-rested. Physical signs often accompany the mental load: tension, restless energy, or fatigue, which further reduces cognitive capacity. Recognizing that emotions can act like background tasks helps reframe the problem. It's not a moral failing, it's a cognitive cost. Small steps to reduce that cost include brief processing, naming the feeling, externalizing thoughts, notes, or voice memos, and setting tiny rituals to acknowledge emotions so they stop running in the background and free up mental clarity. They often leak into daily reactions and lower patience. Emotions that aren't settled often spill into everyday moments, shaping reactions in ways you might not expect. A small irritation can trigger an outsized response because the underlying feeling is amplifying your sensitivity. This leakage lowers patience and increases reactivity. You might find yourself snapping at colleagues, getting frustrated in traffic, or feeling defensive during neutral conversations. These reactions feel automatic because the emotion is operating beneath conscious awareness. Notice patterns. Similar situations that provoke stronger than expected responses likely point to emotional backlog. Pausing for a few breaths, naming what you feel, or taking a short break before replying can reduce the immediate spillover. Over time, practicing small pauses and awareness builds tolerance. As the underlying feelings are processed, your default responses soften and patience naturally returns, making daily interactions smoother and less draining. Even a 30-second check-in during the day can reduce reactivity noticeably. Simple processing, naming the feeling or brief journaling, helps move it. Simple processing like naming the feeling or brief journaling is surprisingly effective. Labeling an emotion, I feel anxious or I'm disappointed, separates you from it and reduces its intensity. A short journaling practice need not be long. Spend 5 minutes writing a sentence or two about what happened, how it made you feel, and one small step you could take. That focused expression helps the brain organize the experience and signals that the emotion has been noticed. Other quick options include speaking aloud to yourself, recording a voice note, or writing a short letter to the feeling that you don't send. These methods externalize the emotion so it stops running silently in the background. Consistency matters more than duration. Doing brief processing regularly prevents buildup. Experiment with different formats and pick what feels natural. The goal is to move feelings, not to perform perfect analysis. Seek support if emotions consistently interfere with daily life. If emotions keep interfering with work, relationships, or sleep, it's a sign to seek support. Regular, intense feelings that impair daily functioning aren't something you have to handle alone. Support can take many forms: a trusted friend or family member to talk things through, a peer support group, or a mental health professional. Each option provides a space to make sense of feelings and develop coping strategies. When to consider professional help: persistent low mood, frequent panic or intrusive thoughts, difficulty caring for responsibilities, or thinking about harming yourself. Immediate help is essential if you feel unsafe. Seeking support is a practical step, not a sign of weakness. A brief conversation with a clinician or counselor can offer quick tools, and long-term therapy or brief coaching can build lasting clarity. Reach out early. It often shortens the backlog rather than letting it grow. 2.4 How the three sources interact. These three sources often feed each other, growing mental clutter fast. One external hit can trigger internal replay and surface old emotions. An unexpected message, a terse comment, or a sudden reminder can feel small at first but quickly spark a replay in your head. That single external hit often acts like a match. It lights internal conversation, pulling up memories or emotions you thought were settled. What follows is usually a loop of what-ifs and rehearsed responses that makes the original event feel much larger than it was. When this happens, pause and label what's occurring. Say to yourself something simple like, "My mind is replaying that comment." Naming it separates the external trigger from the internal reaction. Then use a short technique. Take 3 slow breaths, jot 1 or 2 lines about what you're thinking, and decide if it needs action now or can wait. These tiny steps interrupt the replay and keep old feelings from taking over your present moment. Notifications and stress make self-criticism louder and harder to stop. Constant pings in a busy environment keep your nervous system slightly activated, and that background tension amplifies internal criticism. When you're already on edge, a small mistake or fleeting doubt can snowball into harsh self-talk. The noise acts as a pressure cooker, making it harder to notice that your inner critic is simply doing its job, trying to protect you, albeit unhelpfully. To counter this, reduce the background volume first. Turn off non-essential notifications and create short, device-free windows. If you catch self-critical thoughts, name them. "That's my critic, not a fact." Reframe with one balanced statement, such as, "I did my best with the information I had." Small environmental changes, plus a brief cognitive pause, weaken the critic's hold and make it easier to respond kindly to yourself. Find the main driver now and address it first for quicker relief. Clutter usually has a dominant source at any given moment. If you can identify whether external inputs, internal chatter, or emotional backlog is doing the most work, you'll get faster results by targeting it directly. For example, cutting interruptions helps when external noise dominates, while a short journaling session helps more if old feelings are resurfacing. Try a quick 3-minute check. Notice your thoughts, scan for recent triggers, and tune into your body. That brief assessment tells you where to focus. Then apply one small strategy aimed at that driver. Choosing the most relevant move first saves time and energy, and often yields relief that ripples across the other sources, reducing overall clutter without needing to tackle everything at once. Tackling one source usually reduces pressure from the others. These sources are interconnected, so easing one often lightens the rest. For instance, silencing notifications, external, lowers stress, which in turn quiets internal criticism and frees up capacity to process emotions. Likewise, naming and releasing a single lingering feeling can reduce internal loops and make you less reactive to incoming inputs. This cascading effect is why simple, focused actions work well. Pick one realistic step, turn off alerts for an hour, write a paragraph about what's bothering you, or practice a 5-breath pause and notice the knock-on benefits. Small wins build momentum, and over time those repeated micro-shifts create a quieter, more resilient mental space where other sources of clutter lose their grip. 2.5 Quick tests and practical shifts. Short checks reveal your main driver and suggest fast, effective fixes. 3-minute quiet test. If you replay conversations, internal noise is high. Find a quiet spot and set a timer for 3 minutes. Sit comfortably and simply notice whatever comes up in your mind without trying to push thoughts away. Pay particular attention to whether your mind replays past conversations, rehearses replies, or spins what-if scenarios. Those repeating mental rehearsals are a classic sign of internal noise. If your head fills with the same snippets of dialogue or imagined outcomes, that indicates your mind is looping rather than processing. Don't judge yourself, just label the experience, replaying, worrying, or fixing. Naming the pattern reduces its automatic pull and gives you a clearer place to start. After the 3 minutes, jot down the dominant thought themes. This short record helps you spot recurring patterns over days. If internal noise is high, small actions like a quick brain dump or a 1-minute voice memo often provide immediate relief and make the next step easier. Count interruptions in a day to spot external input problems. Track how many times your focus is broken in a single day. Use a tally on paper or your phone to note every time a notification, conversation, or unexpected task pulls you away from what you were doing. Count both digital and in-person interruptions. Each one chips away at mental clarity. After a full day, review the tally and notice patterns. Are certain apps, times, or people responsible for most interruptions? Seeing numbers makes the problem concrete and less abstract. A high tally usually points to external inputs as the main source of overload. Use that insight to test small changes. Turn off a specific notification for a day, create a focused work window, or close a distracting tab. Even small reductions in interruptions create larger pockets of uninterrupted thinking and help your mind feel less crowded. Scan for lingering sadness or tension to find emotional backlog. Take a brief emotional scan. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself what feeling sits just under the surface. Notice if there is a persistent sadness, irritation, anxiety, or numbness that doesn't shift throughout the day. That steady background feeling often signals unprocessed emotion, your emotional backlog. Emotional backlog doesn't always scream, it more often hums. It can reduce focus and change how you respond to small stresses. If you recognize a recurring feeling, acknowledge it in a sentence. I'm feeling because short reason. Naming the emotion helps it move from anonymous background noise to something you can address. Next steps can be simple. A short journaling session, a quick conversation with a friend, or a focused breath and notice exercise. Giving the feeling a little attention often releases enough pressure to restore clearer thinking. For internal noise, try writing or a voice note to unstick thoughts. When thoughts loop, externalizing them is one of the fastest stops. Grab a notepad or your phone and spend 3 to 5 minutes writing whatever repeats in your head. If writing feels slow, record a 1-minute voice note instead and speak the thoughts aloud. Both methods move content out of your head and into a form you can manage. This practice does two things. It reduces repetition by creating a record, and it turns vague worry into concrete items you can sort. Once on paper or audio, you can decide whether to act, schedule, or let go. Label the entry, worry, plan, or replay to reduce its urgency. Make this a micro habit you use whenever internal noise spikes. Over time, you'll notice fewer automatic loops because your brain learns there's a reliable place to unload intrusive thoughts. For external or emotional overload, turn off alerts, set check times, and name one feeling. Start with 2 simple adjustments. Silence non-essential alerts and decide set times to check messages. Turning off pings removes the constant invitation to switch tasks, while scheduled check-ins restore control and reduce reactive interruptions. Even short device-free blocks can dramatically increase mental space. Pair these technical changes with an emotional check-in. Pick one feeling that's most present. Tired, anxious, annoyed, and name it aloud or in a note. Naming a single feeling helps reduce its intensity and prevents it from coloring unrelated moments. You don't need to solve the feeling, just recognize it. Combine these practices for the best effect. Fewer interruptions free energy to notice and address emotions. Naming a feeling makes processing quicker and less mysterious. Small, repeatable shifts like these add up and keep both external inputs and emotional backlog from dominating your day. Thank you for listening to Chapter 2. We'll see you in Chapter 3. Welcome to Chapter 3 of Mental Detox, a simple 7-day guide to clearing mental clutter. In this chapter, we'll explore Chapter 3, Build Your Mental Clarity System. Turn scattered thoughts into manageable pieces. Clearing mental clutter doesn't require a long checklist or a fancy app. It needs a small system you can use consistently. This chapter lays out a simple 3-part approach: capture, sort, and reduce. These steps help you stop thoughts from repeating, decide what needs attention, and clear out small daily noise. The goal is a system that's lightweight, low friction, and easy to keep doing. Capturing thoughts. When a thought pops up, it claims attention until you either act on it or put it somewhere. Capturing is the act of moving the thought from your head into a safe place outside of you. That could be a notebook, a notes app, a voice memo, or a quick email to yourself. The format matters less than the habit of doing it quickly. Why capturing works. The brain loves closure. When something is unresolved, your mind will keep returning to it. By capturing a thought, you give it a temporary home where it's not lost. That lowers its urgency without ignoring it. The act of writing also helps you see whether the thought is a real task, a random worry, or something to let go of. How to start capturing today. Pick one capture tool you can access all the time. If you prefer paper, carry a small notepad. If you like digital tools, set up a single note or widget labeled Inbox. Practice 2 rules. Capture quickly and avoid editing while capturing. The goal is speed and completeness, not beauty. Sorting your thoughts. Once thoughts are captured, sorting is the next step. Sorting helps you decide what deserves your attention now, what can wait, and what can be released. Use a simple triage: do now, do later, and let go. This allows you to move from a long, unstructured mental list into categories that reflect real next steps. Do now. These are tasks with a clear next action that you can complete within a short time or that are urgent. Examples include responding to a time-sensitive message, making a phone call, or finishing a short task that clears space. Do later. These are valid tasks that need planning or more time. For these, schedule a time to handle them or capture the next action in your calendar or task list. The clarity comes from converting vague items into specific next steps you can place on your calendar without keeping them active in your head. Let go. Not every thought deserves energy. Some ideas aren't relevant anymore, and some worries are hypothetical. You can choose to delete them from your capture list or move them into a someday maybe file if they might matter later. The key is to make a conscious choice rather than leaving them floating in your mind. Practical sorting method. Set a 10-minute sorting session at the end of your capture period. Review each captured item and assign it to one of the 3 buckets. For do later items, add a clear next action and a date. For let go items, either delete or archive them. This simple triage reduces the number of active items and clarifies what needs attention. Reducing daily noise. Reducing noise helps your captured and sorted items stay under control. Noise reduction is about trimming small distractions that chip away at focus throughout the day. These are the tiny interruptions that, combined, steal a lot of mental energy. Start by setting boundaries with technology. Turn off non-essential notifications, close unneeded tabs, and put your phone on a setting that limits interruptions during focused work. Schedule short blocks for checking messages rather than responding whenever something pops up. Limit multitasking by designing single-focused chunks. Work in short sessions, 20 to 45 minutes, where you focus on one thing, then take a brief pause. Use a physical timer or a simple phone timer. When you notice your mind wants to switch, jot a quick note of the other thought in your capture tool and keep going. That quick capture frees your head while letting you keep momentum. Use pause points. Build tiny pauses into transitions, between meetings, before answering messages, after finishing a task. Even a 30-second breathing moment where you scan for the next thing can prevent a rush switch that leaves half-finished thoughts scattered across your day. Design choices that keep the system light. 2 principles will keep your system from becoming another source of stress: simplicity and habit. Keep your capture tool minimal. 1 inbox works better than 5 separate trackers. For sorting, stick to the triage categories unless you have a specific reason to expand. For noise reduction, choose a few changes you can keep doing rather than a long, expensive overhaul. Make the system a habit by attaching it to existing routines. Capture for a few minutes after breakfast, sort at the end of the workday, and do a short review before bed. A tiny, consistent routine is worth much more than a grand plan you can't sustain. Short practices you can try now. Try this 3-step exercise for a single day. Throughout the day, capture any task, worry, or idea that repeats in your head. At a planned time, midday or evening, spend 10 minutes sorting everything into do now, do later, or let go. Set 2 simple noise rules for the day. No notifications during focus sessions, and 1 30-minute window for email and messages. Notice how much clearer your mind feels by the end of the day. Even 1 small round of capture and sorting reduces the number of items your brain is keeping active. Where this leads, building a simple clarity system lays the foundation for longer-term habits. Capture keeps thoughts from repeating. Sorting turns vague worries into actionable steps. Reducing daily noise preserves the space you need to do those things consistently. The next chapter expands on boundaries and steps you can take to create more mental breathing room in your daily environment. 3.1 Capturing Thoughts. Capturing is the simple habit of moving thoughts out of your head and into a reliable place. Do this quickly and without judging the thought. The point is not to perfect the note, but to remove the ongoing mental tug that happens when a task, worry, or idea stays active in your mind. Why capturing works? Your brain treats unfinished items like open tabs. They keep using attention and energy. When a thought stays unresolved, it nudges your focus back again and again, making it harder to settle into the task at hand. Capturing interrupts this loop by giving the thought a temporary home outside your head. Writing or recording a thought signals to your mind that the item is noted and will be handled later. That small act reduces its perceived urgency and clears mental bandwidth. It also creates a record you can review calmly, so decision-making becomes easier. Capturing is not about solving the problem immediately. It's about stopping the repetition. Over time, a steady capture habit reduces mental noise and improves concentration. The more reliably you capture, the fewer open tabs your brain has to manage, and the more space you'll have for focused thinking and restful moments. Choose one easy tool. Choose a single capture tool you can reach in any situation. Simplicity matters. One notepad, one notes app, one voice memo folder, or a dedicated inbox email beats juggling several places. When the method is uniform, your brain learns the habit faster, and you spend less energy deciding where to put things. Pick a format that fits how you live. If you're often away from a desk, a pocket notebook or voice memos work well. If you're at a computer most of the time, a pinned note or a single task list is more convenient. The best tool is the one you actually use without friction. Commit to that one inbox for a week and notice how capturing becomes smoother when you stop searching for a place to store ideas. If you later change tools, migrate contents carefully to avoid splintering. The goal is reliability, an easy, trusted place for every thought you don't want running in your head. Fast rules for capturing. Capture quickly and without polishing. The goal is speed. Get the thought out before it slips away or starts replaying. Use plain language so you can understand the note later. Short, clear lines like "email Sam about invoice" or "book dentist appointment" work better than vague summaries. Avoid editing while you capture. Editing breaks momentum and risks pushing the thought back into your head. If something needs more detail, add it later during a sorting session. For now, focus on clarity enough to recognize what the item is. Include basic identifiers, whether it's a task, reminder, or worry, plus a short next action when possible. A timestamp or quick context, for example, "after lunch," can help prioritize later, but keep entries compact. These fast rules make capture reliable, reduce friction, and increase the chance you'll actually use the habit when your mind is busy. Capture in the moment. Practice capturing whenever a thought repeats or pulls your attention. The point is to catch it before it cycles through your mind several times. If you're in the middle of something, use the quickest format available: a one-line note, a voice memo, or a snapped photo of a receipt or whiteboard. When the captured item is a task, write the next physical action rather than a general goal. For example, "call Tina to confirm date" is clearer than "arrange meeting." Small, specific steps make later sorting and execution faster and reduce ambiguity about what needs to happen. If the thought is a worry or idea without an immediate action, label it accordingly so you can review it later without assuming it's urgent. Capturing in the moment trains your brain that thoughts will be handled, which lowers their urgency. Over time, this habit shrinks the background noise and makes focus easier. 3.2 Sorting your thoughts. Once thoughts are captured, sorting turns the jumble into choices you can act on. A quick triage, do now, do later, let go, stops your mind from treating every item as equally urgent and frees up space for real focus. Use a simple triage. A simple triage turns a long list of captured thoughts into clear actions. When you sort immediately, your brain stops treating every item as urgent, and you get back mental space to focus. Divide items into 3 buckets: do now, do later, and let go. That small structure reduces decision fatigue because you make one clear choice per item instead of reevaluating it repeatedly throughout the day. The act of triage is intentionally quick. You don't need perfection. In a short session, skim each entry and choose the best bucket. If you're unsure, use a temporary holding spot and revisit it in the next sort. Over time, the habit builds trust. Your mind learns captured items will be handled, which lowers their emotional pull. Keep it minimal, 1 inbox, 3 outcomes, and try a 10-minute triage twice a day until it feels natural. This simple habit frees space to focus on what matters instead of mentally juggling an endless to-do list. Define do now clearly. Be specific about what qualifies as do now. These are items with a clear, short next action, or those that prevent a problem if addressed promptly. Clarity here stops vague urgency from draining attention. A practical rule: if you can complete the next step in a few minutes or it has a deadline within a day, move it to do now. Otherwise, it likely belongs in do later. When deciding, name the exact next action. Replace vague entries like handle report with email draft to Sam or upload file. Specific actions remove hesitation and make starting easier. If a do now item will take longer than expected, break it into smaller steps and schedule the first one immediately. That keeps momentum and prevents big tasks from lingering in your head. Protect your do now list by dedicating short focus blocks to clear these items. Completing a few each day brings quick relief and reduces background mental noise. Turn do later into calendar items. Do later items are valid tasks that need planning, context, or more time. Left vague, they keep resurfacing. Moving them into your calendar turns intention into a dependable plan and frees your head. Start by identifying a precise next action for each do later item. Write something executable. For example, research 3 hotels rather than plan vacation. That specificity makes scheduling realistic. Then pick a date and time, or a time block in your calendar. Treat the slot like a small commitment. If it won't work, choose a realistic alternative rather than leaving the task unscheduled. Use reminders sparingly to nudge you and store smaller steps in a task list linked to the calendar slot. That keeps your calendar useful without creating alarm overload. When scheduled, do later items stop cluttering your thoughts because your mind trusts the plan. Periodic review keeps these slots current and removes items that no longer matter. Let go without guilt. Letting go is a deliberate choice to release items that no longer serve you. These might be outdated tasks, hypothetical worries, or ideas that don't align with your priorities. Releasing them creates breathing room. Give yourself permission to delete or archive such items. Moving something to a someday, maybe list is a softer option when you want to keep the idea without an active commitment. Know the difference between responsible neglect and avoidance. If an item truly matters, it will have a clear next action. If not, letting it go preserves attention for what does. Practically, set a rule. During sorting, choose let go unless the item has a next action or clear value. Trust that choice and avoid recapturing items that don't deserve space. Releasing items reduces mental friction and lowers anxiety. You won't empty your mind of thoughts, but intentional choices about what to carry will lighten the load and improve focus. Quick sorting routine. A quick sorting routine makes capture sessions effective without taking much time. Aim for 10 focused minutes after a capture period to process new items so they stop circling in your head. Begin by reviewing each captured entry and assigning it to do now, do later, or let go. Be decisive. The objective is momentum, not perfection, so trust your first reasonable choice. For do later items, immediately add a specific next action and pick a date or time on your calendar. This converts vagueness into a committed plan and prevents the item from remaining active mentally. Archive or delete let go items so they no longer appear in active lists. For do now items, slot them into the next available focus window or complete them if they're brief. Make this routine habitual by linking it to an existing trigger, after lunch, at the end of your workday, or before bed. Consistency reduces how often mental clutter accumulates. 3.3. Reducing daily noise. Reducing daily noise helps your capture and sort system hold up. Small, repeated interruptions are what chip away at focus. Trim a few sources of noise so captured items don't get drowned out by constant background clutter. Set technology boundaries. Technology often hijacks attention with pings, banners, and a growing pile of open tabs. Start by deciding which alerts truly matter and switch off the rest. App badges, non-essential email alerts, and social media sounds. This reduces the number of times your attention is pulled away during the day. Create a simple schedule for checking messages, morning, midday, and evening, for example, so you stop reacting to every notification. Use Do Not Disturb or a focus mode during single focus work, and intentionally close tabs you aren't using to cut down visual noise. If you share devices or work with others, set expectations about response windows so people know when you'll be available. Treat these settings as experiments, tweak them until they fit your life. The goal is to protect attention, not to cut off connection entirely. Work in single-focus chunks. Blocking time into single-focus chunks reduces switching costs and helps you get into flow. Choose one task, set a timer for 20 to 45 minutes, and commit to only that task during the session. Short, focus bursts often beat long, distracted stretches. When another thought or interruption appears, jot it quickly into your capture tool and keep working. That small act tells your brain the idea is safe, so it won't keep pulling you away. Take a brief break between chunks. Stand, stretch, or breathe for a minute before starting the next session. Try different chunk lengths to find your rhythm. Some tasks suit 20 minutes, others need 45. Protect these chunks with your tech boundaries and a clear single goal. Use quick pause points, tiny pauses between tasks, 30 seconds to a minute. Prevent rushed transitions that leave mental debris. Instead of flipping immediately from one activity to the next, create a short gap to intentionally close out what you were doing. Use the pause to breathe, scan your capture inbox, and select the next action. That brief check reduces the likelihood of carrying over frustration or half-formed plans into the next task. Pauses also help manage emotional carryover. A short reset makes it easier to approach the next item calmly. Link these micro breaks to simple cues, finishing a call, closing a tab, or standing up, so they become effortless parts of your day. Capture to avoid task-switching stress. When a distraction or idea surfaces, capture it immediately so you don't have to keep it in your head. A quick note, voice memo, or inbox entry removes the urgency that causes repeated mental returns to the same thought. Capturing isn't doing the task right away. It's giving the idea a reliable place to live. That permission helps you return to the current work without guilt, confident the captured item won't be forgotten. Keep capture low friction. Use a single button, a pocket notebook, or a desktop shortcut. Don't edit while capturing. Speed matters more than neatness. Over time, this habit reduces the stress of switching and improves sustained focus. Keep the system light. Simplicity prevents your clarity system from becoming another source of clutter. Choose one capture inbox, stick to the 3 sorting buckets. Do now, do later, let go, and limit noise reduction rules to a few changes you can maintain. Avoid complex setups with multiple apps and elaborate labels unless they genuinely help. Complexity increases decision load and makes the routine harder to keep. Small, reliable habits are more effective than perfect but unused systems. Start with 1 or 2 changes. Turn off non-essential notifications and add a short daily sorting session. If a rule feels burdensome, simplify it. The aim is a lightweight routine that trims mental noise each day, not a rigid checklist that becomes another burden. Thank you for listening to Chapter 3. We'll see you in Chapter 4. Welcome to Chapter 4 of Mental Detox, a simple 7-day guide to clearing mental clutter. In this chapter, we'll explore Chapter 4, Create Space in Your Mind. Set limits and remove inputs so your head can breathe. To keep mental clutter from returning, you need to build space into your daily life. That means creating mental boundaries, removing unnecessary inputs, and adopting small, space-creating habits. These are habits you can use often, short, practical actions that protect your attention without adding complexity. In this chapter, you'll find simple steps to design a life that reduces incoming noise and gives your mind room to think. Mental boundaries. Mental boundaries are rules you set for yourself about what you'll pay attention to and what you won't. They protect your focus and make decision-making easier. Boundaries can be time-based, task-based, or relationship-based. Time-based boundaries are blocks you set for focused work and rest. Decide when you will be available and when you will not. For example, protect the first hour of your day for deep work or reflection and keep your evenings tech light to recharge. The clearer you are about your time, the fewer surprises and interruptions you'll face. Task-based boundaries mean deciding what types of work you take on. If your plate is full, saying no to new requests is an act of boundary setting. It's not about being unhelpful, it's about prioritizing capacity so you don't carry more mental load than you can manage. Relationship-based boundaries involve how you engage with others. For instance, you might limit certain topics during family dinners or set expectations with colleagues about response times. Healthy boundaries protect your energy and signal to others how you prefer to interact. Removing unnecessary inputs, reducing information that reaches you is one of the fastest ways to clear space. Start with notifications. Turn off all but the essential alerts. You'll be surprised how quickly your attention rebounds when you're not reminded of everything every few minutes. Next, clean up the physical and digital clutter in your immediate environment. A cluttered desk invites distraction. A browser full of open tabs fragments your attention. Tidy the things you use every day so they serve you without overwhelming you. Be intentional about your media diet. Decide what sources you'll check and when. Choose a couple of high-quality outlets rather than scrolling multiple feeds. Limit doom scrolling by setting time boxes for news and social media, and choose content that supports your goals or mood rather than pulls you into anxiety. Space-creating habits. Small habits done consistently create a sense of mental space. These are not long rituals, but quick, repeatable actions that clear small bits of clutter so it never accumulates. Start with a morning plan. Spend 5 minutes identifying your top 3 priorities for the day. Keep the list short. When your priorities are clear, it's easier to refuse distractions that don't serve them. End the day with a brief review. Spend 5 to 10 minutes capturing anything unresolved and sorting it into your system. This prevents thoughts from carrying over into your night and reduces sleep disruption. A short evening review is one of the most effective habits for long-term mental clarity. Take micro breaks. Pause for 60 seconds several times a day to breathe and check in with your body. These micro breaks interrupt autopilot and give you a chance to decide your next focus intentionally. Over time, they lower the pressure of constant reactivity. Practical setup ideas. Design your workspace to reduce friction. Keep a notepad, a pen, and a quiet corner where you can capture thoughts quickly. Use a simple digital tool for longer captures that sync across devices. The point is to make capture and review seamless, so the system feels natural rather than like extra work. Communicate your boundaries. Tell important people when you'll be available. Set a status message in your chat apps and add an automatic reply for emails during deep focus windows. These small signals help others respect your time and reduce surprise interruptions. Handling pushback. When you set new boundaries, you may face resistance. People are used to instant access and may assume you are always available. Respond calmly and clearly. Explain that you're experimenting with a way to be more effective and offer alternative times when you can be fully present. Most people will understand once they see you're more reliable when you are available intentionally, when space feels empty. Sometimes creating space can feel odd or even uncomfortable. If you've carried a lot of mental load for a long time, silence may bring up feelings you don't expect. That's normal. Treat those moments like any other thought. Capture what comes up, name the feeling, and decide whether it needs action. Over time, your tolerance for clear space will grow, and it will start to feel restorative instead of empty. Putting it together, use mental boundaries, reduce unnecessary inputs, and build small daily habits to create reliable breathing room. Start small, a 5-minute morning plan, a 10-minute evening review, and 1 tech boundary for the day. Consistent tiny changes create a strong effect without requiring major life shifts. The next chapter shows how to break repetitive thinking loops that take up a lot of mental space when left unchecked. 4.1 Mental Boundaries. Mental boundaries are simple rules you set to protect attention and energy. They make choices easier and reduce surprise interruptions. Time blocks for focus. Time blocks are predictable windows you set for focused work, rest, and message checking. When you assign parts of the day to specific activities, your attention isn't pulled by competing demands and interruptions naturally fall away. Start small. Protect the first 60 minutes of your day for one deep task, or schedule 2 45-minute focus sessions with short breaks. Reserve a clear slot for email and messages, for example, mid-morning and late afternoon, so they stop arriving at random. Communicate these blocks to others. Add them to your calendar, set a status in chat apps, or use an automatic reply during deep focus windows. These signals reduce surprise interruptions and train people to respect your time. Use simple tools like alarms or calendar colors to stick to your blocks. Over time, clear windows of attention make decision-making easier and keep mental clutter from building. Say no to protect capacity. Saying no isn't rude. It's a way to protect your limited attention and do fewer things well. Each yes adds to your mental load, so choosing where to commit prevents your head from filling with unfinished obligations. Practice short, clear responses. A concise decline like "I can't take this on right now" or "I'd prefer not to" removes ambiguity. Offer alternatives only when you want to help, a reschedule, a smaller task, or a referral, rather than weakening the boundary. Use internal checks. Before agreeing, ask if this aligns with your top priorities or whether it will add stress. If it doesn't help you move forward, it's okay to decline. Remember that saying no creates space for what matters. People generally respect consistent boundaries, and your capacity becomes more reliable when you guard it deliberately. Over time, this reduces background to-dos and makes your days calmer. Limit topic triggers. Certain topics repeatedly trigger stress, politics, finances, or relationship grievances. Limiting when and where these conversations happen keeps emotional load from spilling into other areas. Set clear rules. Avoid hot topics during meals, family time, or before bed. Tell close people that you prefer to discuss sensitive issues at a set time or in a different format, like a planned meeting, not casual chatter. Use gentle phrases to redirect conversations. "Can we talk about this later?" Or "I'm not ready to discuss that now." These lines protect your present focus without cutting people off. If topics keep recurring, schedule a short dedicated check-in. That gives each person space to share while confining emotional processing to a manageable slot, reducing background rumination and protecting daily mental clarity. Also mute group chats or set no discussion hours for your devices to stop sudden topic dives that pull you in unexpectedly. Use small rituals to enforce boundaries. Small, repeatable rituals make boundaries visible and consistent. Actions like closing your door, putting on headphones, or lighting a lamp signal to yourself and others that you are entering a focused or resting state. Rituals are simple cues that reduce decision friction. When you perform the same short action before a task, your brain associates it with a different mode, work, family time, or downtime, so transitions become smoother. Combine physical cues with digital signals. Change your chat status, enable a do not disturb mode, or play the same short playlist. These layers reinforce each other and help others learn your rhythms. Keep rituals tiny so they're sustainable. Even a 30-second routine, tidying your desk, pouring a cup of tea, or closing browser tabs, creates a boundary that protects attention without adding effort. Do them consistently and notice how small rituals reduce friction when you shift tasks. Over weeks, they quietly lower mental clutter. 4.2. Removing unnecessary inputs. Cutting what reaches you is a fast way to free mental space. Start small and be intentional about sources. Prune notifications. Turn off non-essential alerts to regain control of your attention. Start by reviewing apps and services and ask, does this need to interrupt me? Keep only critical notifications, messages from close contacts, calendar alerts, or urgent work tools. Everything else can be silenced or bundled. Move beyond a binary on-off choice by customizing notification behavior. Set quiet hours, use priority lists, or allow banners without sound. This keeps you reachable without the constant tug. When you stop being notified for every update, you'll notice longer pockets of focus and less reactive stress. Treat this as an experiment. Check how your day changes after a week and adjust. Many people discover they missed little but gained calm. Over time, Pruning notifications becomes a tiny habit that preserves mental energy and reduces the ongoing drain of small interruptions. If you share devices, coordinate changes with family or teammates so important messages still reach the right people. Tidy physical and digital spaces. A clear environment reduces visual reminders that pull your attention. Start with a quick declutter of your desk. Put away items you don't use daily, leave out only the tools you need, and create a single spot for incoming papers or notes. An orderly surface lowers background noise and invites focus. On the digital front, close unused browser tabs and organize bookmarks into a short list of active projects. Use one desktop space for current files and archive older documents. Small habits like emptying your downloads folder once a week prevent clutter from creeping back. Treat both spaces as systems, not one-off projects. Spend 5 minutes at the end of each day to reset your desk and close irrelevant windows. These tiny resets reduce visual friction and stop random cues from tugging at your attention, freeing mental bandwidth for the work that matters. Choose a focused media diet. Be deliberate about what media you consume. Instead of sampling dozens of feeds, pick a few trustworthy sources that inform or uplift you. Quality over quantity reduces anxiety and keeps information relevant to your goals. Create rules. Decide when you check news, which outlets you trust, and limit social media to short, intentional sessions. Use time limits or app timers to prevent endless scrolling. When you enter a feed, have a purpose. Catch up, learn, or relax, and leave when that purpose is done. Also, curate the tone of content. Follow accounts that offer useful perspectives rather than those that provoke anger or FOMO. Unfollow or mute sources that leave you unsettled. Over time, a focused media diet makes your mental space calmer and your attention more resilient because you control the inputs rather than being controlled by them. Start by removing one source this week and notice the difference. Batch information intake. Batching means checking messages, news, and updates at set times instead of continuously reacting. Choose 2 or 3 windows a day for email and social checks, and stick to them. This reduces context switching and protects longer, uninterrupted thinking periods. Start with realistic slots, perhaps a morning review, a post-lunch check, and an end-of-day sweep. Announce these times to colleagues or set an away message so others know when to expect replies. For critical systems, use filters or rules so only urgent items break through. Use focused sessions when you batch. Turn off other apps, set a timer for 20 to 30 minutes, and process items quickly. Reply, archive, or assign for later. Over time, batching trains your mind to concentrate and reduces the constant background buzz. You'll finish more and feel less scattered because your attention is grouped, not fragmented. Adjust timing until it feels natural with your workflow. 4.3 Space Creating Habits. Small, repeatable actions create lasting room in your mind. These habits are quick and easy to keep. 5-minute morning plan. Start each morning with a 5-minute ritual that points your day in the right direction. Write down 3 priorities. 1 for focused work, 1 for personal well-being, and 1 flexible or low-effort task. Limiting the list reduces decision fatigue and gives you a clear filter for saying no to distractions. Place the list where you will see it often. A sticky note on your monitor, a quick note on your phone, or the top of your planner. When a new request or idea appears, glance at your 3 priorities and ask whether it moves you closer to them. If not, defer or delegate. This short habit trains your attention to favor meaningful choices. It's not rigid. Some days the priorities shift, and that's fine. The point is to create an easy, repeatable cue that prevents your mind from defaulting to reaction and keeps small decisions from piling up into mental clutter. Brief evening review. Spend 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the day capturing unresolved items and sorting them into your system. Quickly note anything that lingers, tasks, worries, or ideas, and decide whether to schedule it, delegate it, or let it go. This prevents loose ends from rolling into your night. Use a simple format. List the item, assign one next step, and pick a time frame, today, later this week, or archive. The goal is clarity, not perfection. Getting these thoughts out of your head reduces the replay loop that disrupts sleep and morning focus. Over time, the evening review becomes a safety valve. It creates a short boundary between active thinking and rest, so your mind can unwind more easily. Consistency matters more than length. 5 minutes most nights is better than a long review you rarely do. Micro breaks during the day. Take short 60-second pauses several times daily to reset your nervous system and interrupt autopilot. Stand, breathe slowly, and notice tension in your shoulders or jaw. This tiny habit reduces reactivity and gives you a moment to choose your next focus intentionally. Micro breaks can be a quick stretch, a single mindful breath, or a glance out the window. They don't require a special space or a timer, just a small intention to stop and check in. When repeated often, these pauses lower stress spikes and make transitions between tasks smoother. Think of micro breaks as mini resets for attention. They help you avoid cumulative fatigue from long stretches of uninterrupted work and offer frequent opportunities to return to tasks with clearer thinking. Over weeks, small pauses compound into calmer, more deliberate days. Weekly tiny tidy. Once a week, spend 10-20 minutes clearing small nagging items that habitually accumulate. Tackle quick emails, short tasks, or stray notes, things that take less than a few minutes each. Regularly removing these micro-clutter items prevents them from building into a larger backlog. Use a consistent slot in your calendar for this tidy session, such as Friday afternoon or Sunday evening. Set a simple rule. Anything resolvable in 2 minutes gets done immediately. Anything longer gets scheduled. This keeps momentum and ensures nothing important is forgotten. Over time, the weekly tidy creates a habit of small maintenance rather than periodic overwhelm. It reduces the mental friction of nagging tasks and keeps your capture and review system honest and manageable, so mental space stays clear between larger weekly or monthly reviews. 4.4. Practical setup and staying steady. Set up easy tools and plan for pushback so new space feels natural instead of fragile. Make capture effortless. The easier it is to record a thought, the less it will replay in your mind. Keep a notepad, sticky pad, or a simple capture app within arm's reach, on your desk, in your bag, or as a home screen shortcut. Visibility reduces resistance. Use a 2-second rule. If a thought requires more than a glance, write a short phrase and move on. Short labels like call, idea, or buy milk let you capture quickly without editing or overthinking. Pick one primary capture location so your brain learns where to drop things. If you use digital tools, sync across devices, but avoid many separate lists. Multiple inboxes recreate the clutter you're trying to remove. Reserve a daily or evening moment to process captures. During capture, don't perfect phrasing. Just move the thought from volatile memory to a safe place. Making capture tiny and non-judgmental is what keeps your mind quieter. Signal availability. Communicating when you're available reduces surprise interruptions. Use calendar blocks, a status message in chat apps, or an auto-reply during deep focus windows so others know when to expect you. Be brief and specific. In focused work until 11:30, replies after noon gives a clear window. Consistent signals set expectations and make it easier for people to respect your limits without awkward conversations. Combine visual cues with calendar sharing for regular routines. For example, protect the first hour of your day and mark it as Do Not Disturb. Over time, predictable blocks teach others your rhythm and lower the frequency of checks. If someone needs immediate help, offer an alternative. Not now, can we do X at 2 p.m.? This keeps you reliable while protecting your attention for focused work. Respond calmly to pushback. When people resist your boundaries, answer with calm clarity rather than defensiveness. Explain you're testing a way to be more present and offer a concrete alternative time to connect. This shows respect while protecting your focus. Use short, neutral language. I'm trying a focus block this week. Can we move this to 3 p.m.? That keeps the tone collaborative and reduces escalation. Avoid long explanations. Keep it simple and consistent. If pushback persists, restate the benefit. Being available at a set time means you'll be more engaged when you do interact. Modeling reliability helps others accept boundaries as practical, not personal. Finally, be willing to adjust small details if needed. A flexible stance paired with consistency builds trust and makes your boundaries feel fair rather than inflexible. Notice discomfort and act kindly. Creating silence can feel strange or uncomfortable at first. When discomfort arises, pause and name the feeling: anxiety, restlessness, or bored. Labeling reduces its intensity and helps you decide how to respond. Use gentle curiosity rather than judgment. Ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Capture any related thoughts in your notepad so they don't keep looping. A brief breathing exercise can settle the body and give clearer perspective. Decide intentionally, does this feeling need action, or can it be noticed and set aside? Treating internal reactions like any other thought prevents avoidance and reduces the urge to fill silence immediately. Over time, practicing kind attention increases your tolerance for space. What felt empty will gradually feel restorative as you learn to sit with simple awareness instead of reacting to every impulse. Start with one change. Small, consistent steps beat big overhauls. Choose one tech boundary, like turning off non-essential notifications, one morning habit, a 5-minute priority list, and one evening habit, a quick review. Focusing on 3 tiny changes keeps things manageable. Try each for a week and notice the difference in how you feel and focus. If a change doesn't fit, tweak it. This is an experiment, not a test you must pass perfectly. Track progress by simple signals: fewer interruptions, easier sleep, or clearer mornings. Celebrate small wins to stay motivated. Consistency matters more than intensity. Once a change feels natural, add another small habit. Layering tiny wins builds durable space without overwhelming your routine, making lasting clarity attainable over time. Thank you for listening to Chapter 4. We'll see you in Chapter 5. Welcome to Chapter 5 of Mental Detox, a simple 7-day guide to clearing mental clutter. In this chapter, we'll explore Chapter 5, Break Overthinking Loops. Stop the same thoughts from circling and stealing your energy. Overthinking happens when thoughts replay themselves over and over without resolution. These loops often focus on fear, uncertainty, or unresolved issues. They are exhausting because they use a lot of attention but produce little forward motion. The good news is that you can learn to interrupt these loops with a few reliable techniques. This chapter explains why loops form, how to interrupt them in the moment, and what to do to keep them from returning. Why loops form? Loops form for predictable reasons. Your brain is a prediction machine. When it senses possible threat or reward, it runs scenarios to prepare. If a situation is ambiguous, if you didn't get a clear answer, for example, your mind fills in possibilities. Those imagined outcomes trigger emotions, and the emotions bring the loop back again. Over time, repetition creates a default pathway the brain returns to because it feels familiar, even if it's unpleasant. Another reason loops persist is lack of clear next steps. When a thought points to a problem, but there's no actionable next move, the brain tends to keep turning it over in search of one. The loop continues until either the problem is resolved or you give the mind a new piece of information that closes the loop. Loops can also become avoidance strategies. Replaying a perceived wrongdoing or a risky decision is sometimes used as a substitute for making a hard choice. The loop feels like action because you're thinking hard, but it doesn't change the situation. Interrupting loops in the moment. Stopping a loop requires 2 kinds of tactics: grounding and redirecting. Grounding brings your attention back to the present so the thought loses its pull. Redirecting gives your brain a new, constructive task so it has less reason to return to the same cycle. Grounding techniques are simple and immediate. Name 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. This sensory check pulls attention away from abstract replay and into the body. Another grounding move is deep breathing. Slow inhales for 4 counts, hold for 4, and exhale for 6. The longer exhale calms the nervous system. Redirecting means giving your mind a concrete, different focus. Write the thought down to get it out of your head. Then decide one small, specific next action if action is needed. If no action is needed, write a short statement that names the concern and then decides to release it for now. Examples: I'm worried about the meeting. Next action, prepare 2 talking points by 3 p.m. Or, I'm replaying that comment. I will let it go for tonight and address it if it comes up again tomorrow. Practical interruption techniques. Try these techniques when a loop returns. 5-minute rule. Set a timer for 5 minutes to think about the issue. When the timer goes off, stop and capture the thought. This limits rumination to a contained period, Switch tasks intentionally. Move to a simple, absorbing activity, washing dishes, going for a short walk, or sketching. The change in engagement often ends the loop. Use a parking lot for worries. Keep a running list for recurring concerns. If a worry appears, add it to the list rather than following it immediately. Review the parking lot once a day and decide one next action for each item, preventing their return. Longer-term prevention involves reducing triggers and building routines that lower the chance of loops starting. Reduce decision fatigue by simplifying choices. Use routines for mornings and evenings so you don't waste energy on small decisions. Stronger boundaries and fewer interruptions also decrease the conditions that allow loops to grow. Address emotional triggers. If a certain topic or person regularly produces loops, consider how to process the underlying emotion. A short conversation, journaling about the pattern, or discussing it with a friend can reduce the emotional charge so the thought loses its energy. Practice small acts of completion. When you finish tasks and mark them as done, you give your mind a series of closed loops that build confidence. Create a habit of ending the workday by closing one tab, finishing one small task, and writing the first thing for tomorrow. These small completions reduce the brain's tendency to replay unfinished business. When loops are persistent, if certain thoughts keep returning despite your efforts, they may be signaling something deeper that needs attention. Persistent rumination that affects sleep, appetite, or daily functioning is worth exploring with a professional. Therapy, coaching, or peer support can offer tools and perspective for patterns that are hard to shift alone. Short daily habits to reduce overthinking. Introduce small daily practices that weaken loop formation. Daily capture and 1-minute sorting to clear repeating thoughts. 1 20-minute focused work block without interruptions to build mental stamina. Evening reflection. Write one thing that went well and one small step for tomorrow to create a sense of closure. These tiny habits reduce the raw material for loops and increase the number of closed cycles your brain experiences. Summary: overthinking loops are natural but not inevitable. Use grounding techniques to interrupt them, redirecting moves to shift your mind, and longer-term strategies to reduce triggers. Small habits of completion and consistent boundaries will make repetitive thinking less frequent and less powerful. The next chapter explains how to create a reset routine you can use every day and week to keep clutter from compounding. 5.1 Why Loops Form. Overthinking loops start for familiar, practical reasons. This short intro explains the main drivers so you can spot them when they begin. Knowing why your mind gets stuck makes it easier to pick the right way to stop the cycle. Prediction and threat response. Your brain is a prediction machine made to keep you safe. When a situation feels uncertain, it runs possible outcomes to prepare for what might happen. And that replay can feel useful because it seems like problem solving. But if no new information arrives, the brain keeps cycling through the same scenarios. Each replay triggers emotions, worry, frustration, anxiety, which amplify the thought and make it harder to dismiss. Over time, this repeated activity creates a default loop. The nervous system treats imagined threats as if they were real, keeping you alert and stuck in thought patterns that drain energy. A practical move is to ask, what information am I missing? If there's none, give your mind a short time frame to consider possibilities, then choose a small next step or decide to release it for now. Grounding, naming senses, or slowing your breath also reminds the brain you're safe and helps the prediction habit weaken. Lack of a next step. Many loops persist simply because the mind doesn't know what to do next. A problem without a clear next action invites endless rehearsal as your brain keeps searching for a solution that never appears. When a thought points to an issue but offers no obvious move, the mental churn creates the illusion of work without progress. That wastes attention and increases stress. Convert a worry into one tiny, concrete step. Send a one-line message, schedule a 5-minute call, or jot a single question to ask later. Even choosing to postpone with a clear plan closes the loop. If no action is needed, use a brief statement such as, "I acknowledge this thought and will let it rest." Naming when you'll return or deciding to release signals the brain that the issue is contained and helps stop the endless search for answers. Familiarity beats comfort. Repeated thoughts form neural pathways that feel known, and the brain often prefers familiarity over novelty, even when that familiarity is unpleasant. That's why the same worry can feel easier than trying a different response. Breaking the pattern can be uncomfortable simply because new responses require more attention and effort. The loop's pull is partly habit, not proof that the thought is useful. Treat repetitive thinking as a conditioned response you can experiment with. Small, consistent shifts, replacing rumination with a 5-minute task, a brief walk, or a focused breathing break, create alternative routes. Over time, these new habits become familiar and reduce the old loop's power. Be patient and celebrate small changes. Each different choice weakens the old pathway and strengthens a calmer default. Avoidance disguised as thinking. Sometimes replaying a problem is really avoidance in disguise. Thinking feels productive because it uses attention, but it often simply delays making a hard choice or facing uncomfortable feelings. Worry can act as a shield. It protects you from immediate action while prolonging stress. To spot this, ask whether you're gathering new information or just stalling. If nothing new appears, the loop is likely serving avoidance. Break the illusion with a small, real test. Take one concrete micro-step that costs little but yields feedback. A short message, a quick note, or setting a 2-minute timer to act. Action disproves the idea that thinking alone solves the problem. Micro-actions reduce anxiety and teach your brain that results, not rumination, lead to change. Over time, these tiny moves replace avoidance with genuine progress. 5.2 Interrupting loops in the moment. When a loop is running, you need quick moves that stop the replay and return you to the present. The best tactics combine grounding the body with giving the mind a new, simple task. Below are immediate tools you can use anywhere. Ground with your senses. Grounding with your senses is a fast, reliable way to stop a looping thought. By shifting attention to concrete, immediate input, you move out of abstract replay and back into the present. This reduces the thought's emotional charge and gives your nervous system something stable to focus on. Use the simple sensory check. Name 5 things you see, 4 you can touch, 3 you hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. Say them aloud or in your head. You can adapt the order or shorten it when you are busy. Any sensory anchor helps. Practice this regularly so it becomes automatic. Even a few seconds can blunt a loop and make space for clearer thinking. If the mind resists, pair the check with a slow breath or a brief stretch to deepen the grounding effect. You can use this anywhere, at work, home, or on the go. Breathe to reset. Intentional breathing is one of the quickest ways to calm a looping mind. Breath connects body and brain. Changing its rhythm signals safety to your nervous system and reduces the urgency that keeps thoughts replaying. The 4-4-6 pattern, inhale 4 counts, hold 4, exhale 6, lengthens the breath and emphasizes a longer exhale, which promotes relaxation. Start with 3 cycles and notice how the body responds. You can perform this seated or standing with eyes open or closed. If counting distracts you, breathe naturally while focusing on the sensation of air at your nostrils or the rise and fall of your chest. Make breathing a go-to tool by practicing it in neutral moments so it is ready when a loop appears. Combine it with a short mantra like "I am here now," or with grounding cues such as placing a hand on your heart. Small repetitions help the pattern work faster over time. Write it down and decide. Writing a repeating thought on paper takes it out of the mind and gives you space to choose what happens next. The act of wording the concern often reveals its true shape, whether it is vague worry or a specific problem that needs action. Once written, you can treat the note like an object to inspect rather than a voice you must follow. After writing, pick one of 3 clear options. Take a tiny next step, schedule the task for later, or deliberately park it. A tiny step could be a 2-minute task or a single sentence of an email. Parking means creating a brief release line, "I will address this tomorrow," and trusting that decision for the rest of the day. Keeping a small notebook or a digital note makes capturing fast. Over time, you will notice many concerns stop returning once they are recorded and given a next move or a proper place to wait. Redirect with a concrete task. Redirecting gives your brain a new, manageable focus so it stops looping on the same thought. Choose a task that is concrete, short, and absorbing. one that requires attention but not heavy emotional energy. Examples include a 5-minute tidy, a short walk outside, making a to-do note, or answering one simple email. The goal isn't avoidance, but interruption. By completing a small, visible action, you signal to your brain that forward motion is happening, which weakens the pull of rumination. Keep the task brief so it is easy to start. Momentum often follows completing something small. If you are in a situation where you can't move physically, use a tiny mental task. Count backward from 100 by 7s, name 10 things you like about your day, or sketch a quick shape. After the task, take a moment to notice whether the loop has loosened and either return to your main activity or use another grounding move. 5.3 Practical Interruption Techniques. Use a few repeatable methods so you know exactly what to do when a loop returns. These techniques are easy to try and don't take long, a key feature because the goal is to replace rumination with brief, decisive habits. 5-minute rule. The 5-minute rule lets you honor a worry without letting it take over. Choose a timer for 5 minutes and give yourself permission to think about the issue fully. Treat it like a short, contained meeting with your mind, so the thought is allowed but limited. During the window, focus on the thought without judgment. Write down any insights, questions, or actions that come up. If the mind branches into other worries, gently bring it back to the single issue for that session so you don't expand the loop. When the timer ends, capture one small next step or decide to park the thought for later. This containment reduces rumination through the rest of your day and trains your brain to accept limits on thinking time, making spontaneous replay less common over repeated use. Use a parking lot. A parking lot is a simple list where you put recurring worries, ideas, or follow-ups instead of chasing them in the moment. When a loop appears, jot the thought into the parking lot and move on. That small act removes the urgent feeling and prevents immediate rumination. Set a single place for the list, on paper, in a notes app, or a dedicated document. Add a brief line, the worry, date, and a one-sentence trigger or context. Keep entries short so the parking lot doesn't become another cluttered collection. Review the parking lot daily or at a set time. For each item, choose one small next action. Do it now, schedule it, delegate it, or decide to let it go. Mark items complete as you act so your mind can stop replaying the same concerns. Switch tasks intentionally. When a loop feels stuck, deliberately move to a short, absorbing activity that engages your attention in a different way. Choose something simple yet engaging: washing dishes, a brisk 5-minute walk, doodling, or a focused 10-minute work sprint. The aim is to shift cognitive load, not to avoid feelings. Pick activities that require enough focus to interrupt the repetitive pattern, but are low stakes so you won't create more pressure. Physical movement is especially effective because it changes body chemistry and breaks the loop's emotional momentum. Make the switch intentional. Name the activity and set a clear endpoint. For example, I'll walk for 10 minutes and then return. That clarity prevents the activity from becoming another avoidance loop and trains your mind to accept purposeful pauses. Sensory resets. Sensory resets use quick physical cues to pull attention back to the present. Small changes in sensation, cold water on your face, a deep scent, chewing gum, or stepping outside for fresh air, interrupt internal replay and re-anchor you in the body. These techniques are fast and available almost anywhere. Pick 1 or 2 resets that feel doable and practice using them at the first sign of looping. For example, take 3 slow inhales while noticing the air's temperature, then splash a little cold water on your wrists. The contrast in sensation changes the brain's focus and reduces the thought's intensity. Because these actions are brief and physical, they don't require deep analysis and can be used safely in many settings. Pair sensory resets with a quick capture. Write 1 line or add the worry to your parking lot to prevent the thought from returning once the reset ends. 5.4 Preventing their return. Stopping a loop once is useful, but preventing new ones is the long game. Small daily habits and clearer structures reduce the raw material that feeds rumination. Below are sustainable steps to lower how often loops start. Reduce decision fatigue with routines. Decision fatigue quietly feeds overthinking by draining the small reserves of attention you use for everything else. The simplest fix is to remove low-value choices from your day. Create predictable morning and evening routines, same breakfast options, a short work start ritual, or a consistent bedtime sequence, so your brain spends less time weighing trivial options. Limit choices for low-stakes matters. Pick a capsule wardrobe, use a weekly meal plan, or set default responses for common emails. Batch similar decisions together, like grocery shopping or scheduling tasks, so you tackle many choices in one focused block rather than scattering them across the day. Over time, these small reductions add up. Fewer tiny decisions mean more mental bandwidth for the things that matter, and a lower chance that your mind will loop on small, avoidable questions. Address emotional triggers. When a person, topic, or memory reliably sparks a loop, the underlying emotional charge is usually the engine. Start by naming the feeling and where it shows up in your body. This simple act of observation reduces intensity and gives you a foothold for change. Journaling for 5 to 10 minutes can reveal patterns and make the emotion less mysterious. Short conversations with a trusted friend, a calm boundary-setting chat with the person involved, or a quick coaching check-in can also lower reactivity. You don't need a long therapy session every time. Targeted processing, saying the truth out loud, reframing, or deciding a concrete next step often empties the loop. If a trigger keeps returning, schedule a specific time to address it rather than letting it replay spontaneously. That way you acknowledge the feeling without letting it hijack your day. Practice small acts of completion. Unfinished tasks are like open tabs in your mind. Closing even tiny items sends a signal that things can end, which weakens the brain's urge to replay them. Make a habit of finishing one small thing several times a day. Answer a quick email, archive an old note, or write the first task for tomorrow. Use visible markers of progress. Cross items off a paper list, toggle a task to done, or close a browser tab. These micro-completions create a steady stream of closed loops that build confidence and reduce the raw material for rumination. Break larger tasks into 1 or 2-step actions you can complete quickly. The momentum from these small wins makes it easier to tackle bigger items without falling into repetitive thinking. Know when to seek help. Persistent rumination that disrupts sleep, appetite, relationships, or daily functioning is a strong signal to get outside support. If worries are constant, intrusive, or make it hard to do ordinary tasks, professional help can provide perspective and tools that are hard to develop alone. Options include therapy, CBT, acceptance-based approaches, coaching for practical strategies, support groups, or talking with your primary care provider about whether further evaluation is needed. A short course of therapy often teaches lasting skills to interrupt loops and process underlying issues. Seeking help is practical and proactive, not a sign of failure. If you're unsure where to start, ask for recommendations from someone you trust, look for licensed professionals with good reviews, or contact a local mental health line for guidance. Thank you for listening to Chapter 5. We'll see you in Chapter 6. Welcome to Chapter 6 of Mental Detox, a simple 7-day guide to clearing mental clutter. In this chapter, we'll explore Chapter 6, the mental reset routine. Short routines to clear what's built up and prevent future buildup. Routine doesn't need to be complicated to be effective. A mental reset is a short, repeatable practice that clears small clutter before it grows. There are 3 useful rhythms to adopt: a daily reset, a weekly reset, and the habit of adjusting when the routine stops working. This chapter gives clear, practical templates you can use and adapt so the process fits your life. Daily reset. The daily reset is a short check-in that helps you close the day intentionally. It takes 5 to 10 minutes and prevents small items from lingering until they become big. The daily reset serves 2 purposes. It clears tasks and it calms the mind so you can rest better. Daily reset template. Capture. Spend 2 minutes writing down anything still on your mind. Tasks, worries, ideas. Sort. Quickly label each item. Do now, do tomorrow, or let go. If something is urgent, add a clear next action and time. Reflect. Note one thing that went well today and one small improvement for tomorrow. Close. Take a minute to breathe and mentally move from work mode to rest mode. Doing this every evening reduces the mental carryover to the next day. You'll notice you sleep better because your brain knows there's a plan for what needs attention and what doesn't. Weekly reset. The weekly reset is a longer check-in that gives you perspective. It helps you see patterns, prevent long-term buildup, and create space for planning. The session should take 20 to 40 minutes and can be done at the end of the work week or on a quiet day. Weekly reset template. Review. Look at the week's captured items and calendar. What was completed? What drained you? What energized you? Organize. Move any remaining items into the appropriate categories: done, scheduled, delegate, or drop. For scheduled items, pick specific times. Reflect. Identify one pattern to change next week. It could be reducing meetings, setting clearer boundaries, or adding more breaks. Plan. Choose 3 priorities for the coming week and schedule the first steps for each. The weekly reset reduces the chance of slow, however quiet buildup that happens when small issues accumulate over days. It also gives you time to adjust your habits so they stay aligned with what matters. When to adjust. Routines can become stale. If your daily reset feels like a checkbox or your weekly reset becomes a list that never changes, it's time to adjust. A routine stops helping when it becomes either too heavy or too vague. Here are signs you need to tweak. You avoid the reset because it's too long. You finish it and feel no relief. You notice the same problems repeating despite doing the reset. Adjustments can be small. Shorten the daily reset to 3 minutes if 10 feels like too much. Change the weekly reset time of day. Update the categories you use for sorting so they reflect real next steps. The best routines are flexible and evolve with you. Common traps and how to avoid them. One trap is over-planning. The reset is a way to reduce noise, not add layers of tasks. Keep the actions concrete and small. Another trap is perfectionism, expecting a single reset to solve all problems. Resets reduce friction over time but won't eliminate stressors overnight. Finally, don't let the reset itself become a source of pressure. If you miss a reset, treat it as data and continue. The goal is consistency, not rigidity. Ways to make the routine stick. Attach your daily reset to an existing habit, like brushing your teeth or making tea. Make the weekly reset a short ritual. Light a candle or sit in a quiet spot to signal a change in pace. Use reminders but keep them gentle. When the routine becomes part of your environment, it will feel easier to keep doing it. Sample 7-day plan to start. If you want a simple start, use this 1-week plan. Day 1, start capturing everything for the day. Do the 5-minute evening reset. Day 2, keep capturing. During the day, try one 25-minute focus block with no interruptions. Do the evening reset. Day 3, add a micro break every 2 hours. Evening reset. Day 4, try turning off non-essential notifications for half the day. Evening reset and note the difference. Day 5, review your capture list and sort more thoroughly. Evening reset. Day 6, do a slightly longer evening reset with a 2-minute reflection on what drained you and what helped. Day 7, do a short weekly reset using the template above and set 3 priorities for the coming week. 1 week of small, consistent practice creates momentum and helps you see what habits matter most for your clarity. Wrapping up, resets create regular relief points that stop clutter from accumulating. Daily resets manage the small stuff. Weekly resets prevent slow buildup and help you make changes. Adjust when a routine no longer serves you. The real benefit comes from keeping these practices simple and sustainable so they become a natural part of your life. The final chapter offers tools to keep a clear mind long-term and shows how small upgrades lead to big results over time. 6.1 Daily Reset. The Daily Reset is a short evening check-in that helps you clear small tasks and quiet the mind before sleep. It only needs 5 to 10 minutes and works because it turns loose thoughts into a short plan. Doing this regularly prevents tiny items from becoming noisy the next day and makes it easier to rest with confidence that things are captured. Capture quickly. Give yourself 2 uninterrupted minutes each evening to dump whatever is still circling in your head: tasks, ideas, worries, or reminders. Use a paper notebook, a notes app, or a voice memo, whatever you'll actually use. The goal is speed, not polish. Write in short fragments or bullets so you don't get stuck editing. A quick prompt can help. What's left to do? What's worrying me? Or ideas I don't want to forget. Resist the urge to solve problems while capturing. This step is about making space, not fixing everything. If a thought needs action, write the next physical step rather than planning the whole project. When you move thoughts out of your head, they stop replaying in the background. That immediate relief helps you sleep and prepares you to sort items more clearly during the next step. Sort with simple labels. After capturing, apply one of 3 quick tags: do now, do tomorrow, or let go. Keep it fast, don't overthink. If something truly needs doing tonight, mark it do now and add the single next action. For do tomorrow items, a rough time block or priority label helps you avoid morning uncertainty. Let go means consciously deciding not to carry that thought forward. It can be an idea that's not useful now, a worry you can't act on, or a low-value task. Physically cross it or move it into a someday list so your brain knows it's parked. These labels remove the constant question of what next and turn fuzzy thinking into clear, actionable categories so decision fatigue drops significantly. Reflect and learn. End your quick reset by noting one small win from the day and one tiny improvement for tomorrow. The win could be completing a task, handling a tough conversation, or simply getting through a busy morning. The improvement should be specific and doable. Think pause before lunch rather than be calmer. Keep each reflection to a single sentence. This brevity trains your brain to notice progress and to treat learning as tiny, repeatable steps. Over time, these micro-reflections accumulate into clear patterns about what helps and what drains you. When you regularly track wins and one-step improvements, you create gentle momentum. Small changes become visible, which makes it easier to adjust habits without pressure or perfectionism. Close and shift your state. Finish the reset with a brief physical cue. 3 slow breaths, a shoulder roll, standing up and walking to another room, or stretching for 30 seconds. These small acts signal to your body and mind that the active work is complete and rest can begin. Pair the cue with a short mental phrase if it helps, something like, "I've captured it," or "tomorrow is scheduled." This reinforces the idea that important items are recorded and safe, which reduces the tendency to ruminate once you try to sleep. Make the close consistent so your brain links the routine to relaxation. If you miss it, be gentle. Note what happened and return the next night. The closing step is less about perfection and more about creating a reliable transition from doing to resting. 6.2 Weekly Reset. The weekly reset is a deeper check-in that gives perspective and prevents slow buildup. Spend 20 to 40 minutes once a week to review what happened, reorganize lingering items, and set simple priorities for the coming week. This rhythm keeps small problems from stacking and helps you notice patterns you can change. Review what landed. Begin by scanning the week's captures, calendar events, and quick notes. Spend a few minutes marking what you completed, what is still active, and what stalled. This honest triage helps you see which items legitimately need more attention and which are lingering because they were never prioritized. Notice what drained your energy and what gave you momentum. Pay attention to patterns, recurring interruptions, tasks that always take longer than expected, or activities that leave you feeling depleted. Naming these patterns turns vague stress into concrete information you can act on. Be gentle but clear with yourself. The goal is not to criticize the week, but to gather accurate data. When you know what landed and why, you can prevent small issues from becoming background noise that crowds your mind next week. Organize with clear outcomes. Move remaining items into 4 tidy categories: done, scheduled, delegate, or drop. For each scheduled item, put a specific time on your calendar so it stops existing as an unnamed nagging thought. A concrete slot makes follow-through far more likely. For things to delegate, identify the person and the next step: a brief message, a handoff note, or a meeting. Specify how and when you'll follow up so delegation doesn't turn into passive worry. Dropping is a deliberate choice. Remove items that no longer align with your priorities. Clear outcomes reduce mental replay. When every item has a next action or a removal decision, your mind can stop rehearsing what to do and begin to rest. Pick one pattern to change. Choose a single trend to address next week, not 5. Examples include too many meetings, no buffer between tasks, or unclear task ownership. Keeping the focus narrow makes it easier to try a change and observe effects without overwhelming yourself. Make the change specific and time-bound. For instance, no internal meetings on Tuesday mornings, or add a 10-minute break between work blocks. Treat it as an experiment. Collect observations rather than judging the outcome harshly. After the week, review how that one tweak affected your energy and output. Small, intentional experiments build confidence and create sustainable improvements without requiring a full system overhaul. Set 3 priorities and first steps. Limit your plan to up to 3 priorities for the coming week. Too many options create decision fatigue. A focused list creates direction. Pick priorities that are meaningful and achievable within the week's scope. For each priority, define the very first step and make it small. A 15-minute task, a short call, or a 1-paragraph draft. Scheduling that first step removes friction and increases the chance you'll begin. At the end of the week, you'll have clear evidence of progress or a reason to adjust. This simple structure, 3 priorities with concrete first steps, keeps your momentum steady and reduces the clutter of indecision. 6.3 When to adjust. Routines stop helping when they become heavy, vague, or automatic in the wrong way. Knowing when and how to tweak your resets keeps them useful. Small changes often restore energy and effectiveness without adding complexity. Watch for signs it's time to change. Routines are meant to help, not to become another source of stress. Common signs it's time to change include avoiding the reset because it feels too long, completing it without any sense of relief, or noticing the same problems reappearing despite your practice. Treat these signs as neutral data rather than a failure label. These clues tell you the routine needs a tweak. When you spot these signals, pause and ask simple questions. Which step feels hardest? Which part takes the most time? And is the timing off? Often a small adjustment restores the benefit without abandoning the habit. Try logging what you notice for a week so you can confirm a pattern before making bigger changes. Be gentle with yourself during adjustments. Treat changes as short experiments. Try a 3-day edit, notice what improves, and keep what works. If a tweak doesn't help, return to what did work before. The goal is steady improvement, not instant perfection. Make small, concrete adjustments. Small changes are powerful because they're easy to try and sustain. If your daily reset drags on, shorten it to a focused 3-minute version. Move the reset to a different time of day, after dinner or just before bed, until it fits your natural rhythm. Rename sorting categories so they match how you actually act. For example, swapping do later for schedule or adding delegate instead of an ambiguous label. Treat adjustments as short trials. Keep a note of whether the change made the reset feel easier and whether actions actually happened. After a week, keep what helps and discard what doesn't. These concrete edits reduce friction, keep the habit realistic, and prevent the reset from turning into another chore. Tiny, repeated edits maintain momentum. When the routine is practical and aligned with your life, it becomes easier to keep doing it consistently. Avoid perfection traps. Perfectionism can turn a helpful habit into pressure. Don't expect a single reset to fix everything or for your routine to be perfect from the outset. Consistency matters more than flawless execution. Steady, imperfect practice reduces mental clutter over time and builds sustainable progress. When you miss a reset, treat that miss as useful information. Note the reason and make a small change. If evenings are too busy, try a morning mini reset or shorten the evening version. Be curious about barriers instead of critical. Curiosity helps you find practical fixes that actually stick. Remember that mental detox is cumulative. Small adjustments and a forgiving attitude compound into lasting clarity. Aim for progress, not perfection, and celebrate small improvements so the habit grows without becoming another source of stress. Keep the routine fresh. Keeping a routine fresh prevents boredom and keeps motivation alive. Use habit stacking by attaching the reset to something already steady, making morning coffee or brushing your teeth. That existing habit becomes a reliable cue so you don't depend on willpower alone. Add a small ritual to mark the transition. Light a candle, set a timer, make a cup of tea, or play a brief sound. These signals make the practice slightly pleasant. Change the environment sometimes, move to a different chair or sit by a window so the activity feels new and less automatic. Gentle reminders beat pressure. Use soft alarms or sticky notes and avoid harsh self-talk if you skip a session. Ask why it was missed with curiosity. When the reset fits your life and feels a little enjoyable, You'll naturally keep at it without forcing yourself. Thank you for listening to Chapter 6. We'll see you in Chapter 7. Welcome to Chapter 7 of Mental Detox, a simple 7-day guide to clearing mental clutter. In this chapter, we'll explore Chapter 7, Maintain a Clear Mind Long Term. Keep clarity from slipping away with small, steady upgrades. Clearing mental clutter is not a one-time achievement. It's a practice you keep using throughout life. The most reliable results come from monthly check-ins, watching for early signs of return, and making small improvements that fit your life. This chapter explains how to maintain clarity long-term so you don't have to rebuild from scratch each time life gets busy. Monthly review. A monthly review gives you a bigger picture look at how your habits are working. It's different from the weekly reset because it focuses on patterns over time rather than immediate tasks. Spend 30 to 60 minutes once a month to look back and plan forward. Monthly review template. Review your capture and reset notes from the past month. What repeated issues show up? Assess energy patterns. Which days or activities gave you the most focus or drained you the most? Choose one upgrade for the coming month. Make it small. Limit social media to 30 minutes a day, add a weekly tech-free evening, or strengthen a boundary. Set measurable goals. Instead of saying, reduce stress, aim for something like no notifications between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Doing this each month keeps you in tune with how life is changing and lets you adapt before clutter returns. Early signs of clutter. Be proactive by noticing early warning signs that your mental space is filling up. These signs often appear before you recognize a full-blown problem: trouble focusing on simple tasks, mental fatigue that comes without heavy work, shorter patience or increased irritability, recurring thoughts about minor past events. When you spot one of these signs, use a brief reset and ask which source of overload is most active. Then apply the right response. Capture and sort for internal noise, reduce inputs for external overload, or schedule time to process if emotions are building. Long-term upgrades. Small upgrades made consistently add up. Here are a few that have a large payoff over time. Regular sleep schedule. Consistent sleep improves focus and reduces reactivity. Simplified morning routines. Fewer decisions early in the day preserve willpower. Stronger boundaries. Saying no more often protects your time and energy. Minimal tech rules. Scheduled email and message times reduce constant fragmentation. Weekly reflection. A brief weekly check keeps you in touch with patterns and prevents slow drift. Pick one upgrade at a time and live with it for a month before adding another. The compound benefit of one habit sustained over months often beats many habits started and abandoned frequently. Keeping the practice human. Long-term clarity is not about perfection. It's about making life a bit easier and more manageable so you can think and feel better. Be kind to yourself when things get busy. The point of these practices is to help you live well, not to add guilt. Treat missed resets as information, not failure. Notice what got in the way and adjust so the practice fits your current life. Using community and accountability. Sometimes support from others helps maintain change. Share your 1-month upgrade with a friend or partner and check in weekly. Join a small group or find an accountability buddy to celebrate successes and troubleshoot sticking points. The social element makes habits more likely to stick and provides perspective when you're too close to a problem to see it clearly. When to seek deeper help. If clutter persists despite your best efforts and it affects sleep, relationships, or daily functioning, consider reaching out for professional support. A therapist or coach can help you see patterns, process emotions, and build personalized tools. Getting help is a practical step, not a sign of failure. Simple daily checklist for maintaining clarity. Use this short checklist as a daily baseline to keep clutter low. Capture any repeating thoughts during the day. Do a quick evening sort for 5 minutes. Take one micro break to check in with your body and breath. Keep one clear boundary for the day, such as a tech-free hour or a limit on meetings. These 4 small actions, done consistently, prevent most common clutter from returning. Final note: maintaining mental clarity is about steady, tiny improvements. Monthly reviews, noticing early signs, and adding small upgrades build a life where your mind is easier to manage. You don't need to remove every thought. You just need a system that keeps the noise low and gives you room to focus on what matters. With these habits, clarity becomes less of a goal and more of a default. Keep practicing, keep adjusting, and your mind will feel lighter more often. 7.1 Monthly Review. Set aside 30 to 60 minutes once a month to step back and see the bigger picture. This check-in helps you spot patterns before they become problems. Look back at captures and resets. Start your monthly review by gathering the notes, capture lists, and weekly reset summaries you kept over the month. Skim them with the specific goal of spotting repetition, tasks that reappear, worries that return, or projects that never move forward. These repeats are clues to underlying causes, unfinished decisions, unclear priorities, or missing resources. As you notice patterns, jot a brief insight beside each repeating item. Ask simple questions. Is this something I can delegate, schedule, or let go? Does it point to a habit I need to change? This step turns passive note-keeping into active problem-solving. Finally, pick 1 or 2 recurring themes to address directly. Create a tiny next action, call, schedule, or cancel, so the pattern is interrupted. The point of reviewing captures and resets is not perfection. It's to turn background noise into manageable next steps that reduce future clutter. Track energy and focus patterns. During your monthly check-in, map out when you felt most focused and when you felt drained. Look across days, activities, and contexts, meetings, deep work, family time, or commuting. This helps you see reliable windows of clarity and predictable energy leaks. Use a simple mark on a calendar or a one-line note for each day. Labels like high focus, low energy, or distracted. Over a month, patterns will emerge. Certain mornings, tasks, or environments may consistently support attention while others sap it. With this information, plan upcoming weeks so important work lands in your best windows. Also, identify small fixes for drains, shorter meetings, scheduled breaks, or shifting chores. Tracking energy isn't about rigidly optimizing every minute. It's about aligning your important tasks with when you naturally think better. Pick one small upgrade. Choose a single, concrete change to try for the next month. Keep it small and specific. Examples include no notifications after 8 p.m., one tech-free evening, or 15 minutes of planning each morning. A focused upgrade is easier to adopt and measure than a vague resolution. Define how you'll apply the upgrade and what counts as success. If your upgrade is a tech-free evening, decide which hours and what tech-free means for you. If it's a planning habit, choose the exact time and where you'll do it. Small clarity up front prevents drift. Treat this month like an experiment. Notice what helps and what gets in the way. At the next monthly review, keep it, tweak it, or swap it for a new upgrade. Over time, a few well-chosen small wins compound into meaningful mental space. Set measurable goals. Translate broad intentions into measurable goals you can check at the next monthly review. Vague aims like reduce stress become actionable when paired with a clear behavior. No notifications between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Or 3 20-minute focused work blocks per week. Pick metrics that are simple to track. Counts, yes/no checks, or short ratings. For example, note how many evenings you honored a tech boundary, or rate daily focus on a 1 to 5 scale. Recording small data points creates feedback without heavy effort. Use these measures to inform adjustments. If a goal is consistently missed, ask why. Was it unrealistic? Did something else need fixing first? Measurable goals keep you honest and allow monthly reviews to guide steady, manageable improvement rather than guesswork. 7.2 Early Signs of Clutter. Recognizing early warning signs keeps clutter from growing. Notice small shifts in how you think and feel so you can act quickly. Difficulty focusing on simple tasks. When routine work that used to feel easy suddenly drags on, your attention is probably split across too many active thoughts. Small tasks start to take longer because your mind keeps switching between items it thinks it must remember or solve. This is a classic sign of mental clutter. Respond quickly by doing a brief capture. Write down anything that keeps popping up, even if it seems minor. Then sort those notes into immediate, scheduled, or let-go categories. Often the act of externalizing a thought reduces its mental weight. Protect your attention with tiny structure. Use short time blocks, 15 to 30 minutes for one task, silence notifications, and remove obvious visual distractions. If you feel resistance, take a 2-minute pause to breathe and reset before returning. These small steps restore momentum. By clearing the repeating items and creating single task windows, you'll notice simple tasks finish faster and focus becomes easier to sustain. Mental fatigue without heavy work, feeling drained after a light day, is a strong indicator that background worries or unresolved items are quietly consuming energy. Even when you haven't done much physically or mentally, unmanaged thoughts can sap your capacity. Start by naming the drain. Capture recurring worries or pending decisions in a short list. Don't judge them, just get them out of your head. Then pick one small item you can either resolve quickly or schedule for later, so it stops looping in the background. Next, schedule a focused processing session, 15 to 30 minutes, to sort through what's left. Include a break with movement, hydration, or fresh air afterward to restore energy. Regularly practicing this stops background concerns from stealthily exhausting you. Over time, you'll notice lighter evenings and more energy for the tasks you actually choose to do. Shorter patience and irritability. When tiny frustrations feel disproportionately irritating, your mental bandwidth is low. That shorter fuse often comes from cumulative noise, too many demands, decisions, or emotional residues that leave you less tolerant of daily friction. First, pause and breathe. A quick grounding exercise, 3 slow breaths or a brief walk, reduces reactivity and buys time for a clearer response. Then lower external inputs. Mute notifications, step away from a tense conversation, or shorten the task list for the moment. Use capture to identify what's adding pressure. If you're overwhelmed by choices, simplify by limiting options to 2 or 3. Protect your energy by saying no to non-essential requests and setting a temporary boundary. These actions don't solve everything immediately, but they prevent small irritations from escalating. With practice, you'll regain patience more quickly and avoid the regret that often follows snapping in stress. Recurring minor thoughts, small events, doubts, or what-ifs that keep replaying are classic repetitive thoughts. They take up space because the mind treats them as unresolved problems. The faster you decide on their status, the quicker they stop resurfacing. Capture each repeating thought as it appears. No editing, just a few words. Then use a simple decision step. Act, schedule, or let go. If it's actionable and quick, do it. If it requires time, put it on the calendar. If it's not useful, consciously choose to release it. For thoughts you decide to let go of, try a brief ritual. Write noted and released next to the item, or physically fold the note away. This symbolic closure helps the brain move on. Handling recurring minor thoughts this way clears mental bandwidth fast. Instead of letting repetition erode focus, you create clear outcomes and reclaim the attention those tiny loops were stealing. 7.3 Long-term upgrades. Tiny, consistent changes beat sporadic efforts. Pick sustainable habits that protect attention and make daily life easier. Regular sleep schedule. Consistent sleep is one of the simplest and most powerful upgrades for mental clarity. When you go to bed and wake up at roughly the same times most days, your brain learns a predictable rhythm that improves focus, memory, and emotional balance. Instead of fixating on a perfect number of hours, pick a routine that fits your life and protect it. Small changes, like dimming lights an hour before bed, avoiding screens right before sleep, or keeping caffeine earlier in the day, help your system settle into that routine. Over time, regular sleep reduces emotional reactivity and lowers the background noise of worry and fatigue. Treat it as a boundary. Prioritize sleep like any other appointment. Even modest consistency across the week produces noticeable benefits for attention and mood, which in turn keeps everyday mental clutter from building up. Simpler mornings. A calmer morning reduces early decision fatigue and preserves willpower for the day's important choices. Simplifying breakfast, choosing outfits ahead of time, and having a short, predictable first task ritual cut down on small, repetitive decisions that add up. Create a basic checklist you can follow without thinking. A consistent wake time, a brief movement or breathing practice, and the first prioritized task. This small structure removes friction and gives your mind a clear place to start. Over weeks, a simpler morning leads to steadier energy and fewer scattered thoughts. You don't need a long routine, just consistent, low-effort habits that make the start of each day predictable and calm. Clear boundaries. Boundaries are practical tools that protect attention and reduce interruptions. Saying no to requests that drain you, blocking focused work time, or reserving an hour for rest are all ways to preserve mental space. Start with one small boundary you can keep: a daily, uninterrupted block for deep work, a no-meeting morning, or a short tech-free window each evening. Communicate it kindly and consistently so others learn to respect it. Boundaries act like a filter for incoming demands. They don't need to be absolute, they just need to be reliable. Over time, protected time and clearer expectations reduce reactive decisions and help you maintain a steadier, less cluttered mind. Minimal tech rules, intentional rules for technology, remove tiny interruptions that multiply into a noisy day. Simple practices, scheduled email checks, notification limits, or tech-free periods prevent constant context switching and help thoughts stay clear. Choose a few tech rules that fit your life. Check messages twice a day, turn off non-essential notifications, or make one evening tech-free. Keep these rules small so they're sustainable rather than punitive. When you control when and how you engage with devices, you reclaim minutes and focus that otherwise scatter. These recovered moments compound, making your mental space quieter and giving you more consistent attention for what matters most. 7.4. Keeping the practice human. Clarity isn't about perfection. Be kind, adjust when needed, and use people for support so the habits stay realistic and useful. Treat setbacks as information. When you miss a reset or have a chaotic week, resist labeling it a failure. Setbacks are signals, useful data that tell you what isn't fitting right in your routine, energy, or environment. Use a calm, curious note-taking approach. Jot down what happened, what felt hard, and any obvious triggers. Was it a crowded schedule, an unexpected event, or simply fatigue? These small notes make patterns visible over time. Next, make a tiny tweak rather than a major overhaul. If evening sorting feels impossible, move it to morning or shorten it to 2 minutes. Small adjustments maintain momentum and reduce guilt. Finally, be compassionate with yourself. Treating setbacks as information keeps the practice human. It encourages learning instead of perfection, so clarity becomes sustainable rather than stressful. Try scheduling a weekly 10-minute review where you collect these notes. Over a few months, you'll spot recurring obstacles and can choose one simple change to experiment with next month. Use accountability and community. Accountability and community make habits easier to keep. When you tell a friend about your monthly upgrade or join a small group, you add gentle external pressure and encouragement that helps sustain change. Choose someone who understands your goals and is consistent. A weekly check-in can be as simple as a quick text sharing progress or a short call to troubleshoot when things feel stuck. The point is regular connection, not judgment. Group settings bring additional benefits: shared tips, normalized setbacks, and ideas you wouldn't think of alone. Even online communities focused on minimalism, productivity, or mental well-being can offer useful perspectives. Keep it practical. Agree on a cadence, a short format, and one measurable goal to update. Celebrate small wins together and treat slips as opportunities to adjust. Over time, this social element turns solo practices into durable habits. Know when to get extra help. If clutter persists and affects sleep, relationships, or daily functioning, it's a sign to seek professional support. A therapist, counselor, or coach can offer tools tailored to your situation and help you see repeating patterns you might miss. Professional help can teach ways to process emotions, restructure thinking, and develop practical strategies for managing overload. They also provide a confidential space to explore sources of pressure without fear of judgment. Reaching out is practical, not a failure. Consider starting with a primary care recommendation, an employee assistance program, or online directories that list licensed professionals. Many offer brief initial consultations to see if the fit feels right. If cost or access is a concern, look for sliding scale clinics, community mental health services, or trusted books and structured programs as interim support. Prioritizing help when needed prevents small clutter from turning into chronic problems. Simple daily checklist. A short daily checklist gives you a low-effort baseline to prevent clutter from building. These 4 actions take minutes, but when done consistently, stop many small worries from growing. Capture repeating thoughts during the day. Use a note app, a sticky note, or a small notebook. Write just enough to free the thought from your head. A keyword, an action, or a reminder to return to it later. Do a 5-minute evening sort. Scan what you captured, decide what to do now, schedule for later, or let go. This tiny ritual reduces overnight replay and makes mornings clearer. Take one micro break to check in with your breath and body. 60 seconds of focused breathing or a short stretch resets attention. Finally, hold one clear boundary each day, like a tech-free hour, to protect focus and energy. Pair these actions with an existing habit, after lunch or before bedtime, to make them easier to remember and keep them flexible so they fit changing days. Thank you for listening to Chapter 7.